What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was captured by Succubi and forced to be their eternal mate? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. A blonde-haired man ran into the room where a red-haired woman lay, breathing through the contractions. Kushina, someone in the village found out about you. Minato, not now. The baby is coming. The man dressed in Hokage robes held his mate through the contraction. When it had finished, he continued, "Love, one of the Uchiha passed by and saw you in your second-level form." Minato, I couldn't really control it. She spat out through clenched teeth as another wave hit her. They were coming closer together now. True to her words, her form shifted a little as the pain washed over her. Her tail shimmered into existence behind her. Seeing this, Minato had an idea. These humans will believe what they see, while I will give them something to see. Then, turning to his mate, he said, "Love, I will be back in a moment. I need to distract the village. Our plan of how we must leave if one of us was discovered needs to be used." "Minato, do you have to go now?" Kushina screamed. Holding her through the next round of contractions, Minato kissed her head and created a clone. Using his Yukai instead of chakra, it would last through a few of the hand-crushing contractions. "I must, there is no other choice and the time is perfect." With this he left. He would be back in time to see his cub born. Racing out of the village under an illusion, Minato reflected on how this came to be. He and Kushina both had met at Yukai Academy, had fallen in love, fought battles together, and finally revealed their forms to each other. Minato was a water Yoko, demon fox, and Kushina a fire Yoko. The two races had been fighting for dominance for millennia. The water Yoko had allies with the earth, and the fire with air. Since the two sides were evenly matched and balanced, a ceasefire type of truce had sprung up between the two sides. But either side looked for a reason to break it. Both he and Kushina had been sent to Konoha to see how weak the humans truly are and to toughen up a little by killing some of them. A few years after completing the Ninja Academy, they underwent a special training trip by Jiraiya, who, in truth, was a relatively powerful Toad Yukai who had passed from a D rating up to a solid B by combining the human fighting methods with his own. Something he endeavored to pass on to his pupils. Minato was the youngest and weakest son of the leader of the Water Yoko. Kushina was the only daughter of a rather powerful Fire Yoko who declared her an accident. While others studied fighting, he studied the healing side of their powers more. Kushina, on the other hand, mastered what her father had told her she never could but kept it from him. They learned trickery from their cousins the Kitsune. As such, they had learned to appear weak so as not to draw attention to themselves. This was especially useful in obtaining the various Yoko clans' fighting secrets. In reality, they went to Yukai Academy. The years they spent there caused their already strong relationship to grow. Initially, they hadn't had an idea that the other was a Yoko. They knew the other was a Yukai of some sort. But when Jiraiya approached them about Yukai, that truth was easily discovered. After a time they had marked each other, much to the displeasure of both sides of the conflict, and fled from all contact with the clans. Should one of the two sides discover them, they might be forced apart or even killed. Until then, they hid in plain sight. None of their families suspected they would hide among humans. Jiraiya had told both of their parents that they had been seen heading to other Yukai realms. After a few years, the search was abandoned due to trouble with the vampire clans. Shaking his head free of his memories, he set multiple explosive tags, then set them off. The resulting fires, he fanned with a wind technique that he had learned from the village. Soon a fire was raised. He then cast a powerful illusion, using well over half of his energy. A giant nine-tailed Yoko appeared, looking like Kushina's father. This would cause him problems among the Yoko Council, but it would likely be ignored. Among this group of humans, there were legends about 9 monsters, and this illusion would further some of them. Leaving another clone there to throw out high-level jutsu, Minato sped back to Konoha. Arriving back at their safe house, Minato jumped through the window to Kushina's room. The clone was dispersed the instant he arrived. Minato took its place next to his love's side. Because of their different natures, she had to give birth in her human form. It was easier and would also ensure that their child was born in human form as well, preventing any slip-ups for the first day or two. However, since they would be leaving, it didn't really matter. Minato created a few shadow clones, sending them to go to places he frequented. After all, once the plan started he would need people to see him. All too soon, it was time for Kushina to push. Finally, to her what felt like an eternity later, it was over. She lay back, allowing the newborn Yoko to suckle. How much time do we have? Only a few hours. Can you make sure to seal away the special library? Like I would forget that. We almost lost a tail each stealing that information. Well, I had better go to the office. I will tell Hiruzen that you passed away in childbirth. It is good we never really used a bank. We can get away with all of our funds. Start a new life somewhere else. Minato, don't forget your project. We have been able to do so much with those jutsu and seals. If they think it is destroyed, then they will have no reason to be angry. Of course Kushina. Most of the clan heads were under a compulsion anyway. I felt bad for doing it, but it has helped. Their project is in fact the Forbidden Scroll. It is a compilation of all the techniques of the village, including clan techniques. Minato had to hide those in the scroll. By a stroke of luck he had gotten Fugaku Uchiha to let him into the Uchiha library, under an illusion of course, and Minato had been able to use a jutsu to copy everything that they had recorded. Since they had been copying other people's jutsu for some time, it took hundreds of shadow clones weeks to organize everything into a format that he could put in the scroll and not make it seem like it was taken from other villages. He had begrudgingly gotten the main clans that did not depend on a bloodline to put their clan and family jutsu in, under seals, of course. Although they were under blood seals, Minato had made the seals so he could break them as well. He and Kushina had even created something similar with all of the Yoko techniques that they had appropriated when they left their homes. Since each set of Yoko allies had shared libraries, it had been easy, but they were almost caught, and had to work together to take down a guard that had found them. What the Yoko didn't know is that in the shinobi villages, someone had unlocked the secret of gaining an additional affinity other than the one they were born with. As such, both Minato and Kushina could use any of the techniques even if they were not originally of that clan. The art of seals was another that when used with Yukai energy made them extremely formidable opponents. These facts alone would make it easier for them to fight off anyone who wished to separate them. What Minato and Kushina didn't know, however, is that as such, they had changed the nature of their Yukai energy. Minato had finished writing an extremely powerful illusionary technique into the scroll that he had labeled Shiki Fujin. It could literally scare enemies to death. Hiruzen was standing behind him as he did this. Since Minato had told him that both his wife and child had died in the birth, Hiruzen was offering emotional support to the younger Hokage. Acting along, Minato had covered the real actions in an illusion as he wrote Hiruzen would think this as a massive sealing technique. He had been saving this until the last step of his and Kushina's plans. When he set down his brush, a chunin burst into the office. Hokage, sound an alarm, there has been a sighting of the Kyuubi. It is headed toward the village. Understood. Hiruzen, take charge of the village forces. Help get the civilians and injured into the bunkers. Hopefully they will last. Suddenly an explosion rocked the tower. Looking out, massive fireballs were being launched by an imposing red figure. Hiruzen ran from the room to help his people. Minato slung the scroll over a shoulder. Even with the small writing and abbreviations, the scroll was huge. Then again it contained a copy of everything the village had in the way of knowledge. As he jumped from the room, he directed passing Anbu to head towards the largest blast site. Funny how it just happened to be situated exactly where Danzo's old house had stood, thereby exposing a network of tunnels that Root used. As his final favor to the village he exposed the man for who he really was. Eliminating that program would make things easier. It helped that Danzo himself had been pinned under the debris, half of his body crushed beneath stone. He would not live through the next few days. Minato smirked, gotta love paralysis seals. Many other fireballs had exposed other village annoyances. 1. Burning the only copies of the caged bird seal. Another crashed through and destroyed the secret shrine of the Uchiha. Minato had already removed that knowledge from those who knew of it. This same fireball hit the Uchiha who had seen Kushina transform. Orochimaru had stepped out of one of his hidden labs and was dead before he could pull off another jutsu. The resulting explosion allowed for later cleanup teams to free his captives and save most of the people who were still alive. Kushina, upon leaving their house, set off some explosive tags, and with some well-placed fire jutsu ensured only ash would remain. All of their possessions had already been sealed in the scroll that was on her back, below where their newborn child was carried. After changing her appearance to that of a nondescript chunin, she set off towards the site of where the battle was taking place. Coming alongside Minato, she whispered to him that she was ready. Shortly afterwards he began making hand signs for the benefit of those around him. Ordering only Kushina to stay, he sent the others to attempt to guard the village. The fox then focused solely on Minato and Kushina. A large ball of energy grew from its mouth. All shinobi present felt a shiver of fear as a robed figure similar to the Shinigami appeared darting forward. The two attacks met, causing a massive explosion and flattening half of the forest. Under the cover of their illusions, the small family slipped away unnoticed. In the days that followed, the village hidden in the leaves held a memorial for those that died. Hiruzen noted that the loss of life was minimal, and many of the things that were destroyed were detrimental to the village anyway. When the third Hokage shared the story of Minato losing his wife and child in childbirth, then his life defending the village, his honor rose even higher. The fourth Hokage was immortalized and a statue of him and Kushina was erected just outside of the Hokage Tower. In their arms was a little boy. Theirs was the only family that had been lost that night. A few days later and leagues away, Minato and Kushina were sitting by a fire. Kushina, I don't understand what you have against living close to Surara. You two got along well enough at school. Minato, it's not that. They run a ski resort. I am fire-based, so you should be able to stay warm. We decided that we could open an inn nearby. She always has said that their lodges don't have enough room for all of the tourists. I don't like the cold. So use fire manipulation to stay warm. If anyone is looking for us, they will be looking where it is warm. They have cold over half the year. Besides, you miss her. Minato waited for a few moments before making his final argument. You do know that if we live close to Agaya, our son will turn out far too much like Jiraiya for my liking. She can't do anything to me, but to our son. His voice left the results unsaid. Kushina shuddered at the implications. She liked her two friends from school, but Agaya was a handful. She wholly embraced her succubus nature. Yoko were known for being faithful to their mates. Some of the more powerful by their nature took multiple mates. Only a very powerful Yoko could override this, one of the reasons they were still in hiding. Until Naruto, their son, grew at least his first tail, they could not be recognized as a pair, and could still be separated. Yoko could have a child at any time they wanted, even at an old age, but it was hard on the female. Once the kid was shown to be a Yoko, then the mating would be recognized by the clans since some unions would not produce more Yoko. Once recognized, no one could break it. She sighed then responded, fine, but you have to be in charge of making sure Naruto stays in his human form in public. Already working on a seal until he can control it. Fine, we leave in the morning. The following morning, Minato drew a complicated seal on the ground, allowing the small family to teleport the distance necessary. Upon arriving, Minato and Kushina made their way to the Yuki-Onna village. They had to be careful. While they were friends with Surara, most Yoko were feared and hated by the Yuki-Onna for decimating their race years ago. They had worked hard to get their population back up to even the small numbers that it was. Unlike the Yoko, they could only have children for a short time, even if the pregnancies were easy on them. If the village knew that there was a Yoko nearby, they might kill them. Stopping to read street signs, they heard a voice. Kushina? Is that you? Turning, the couple saw a pale lady in a white kimono carrying a blanket-wrapped bundle. Surara, what are you doing here? I thought you had run off with that crazy man of yours. Well, I did, and we are moving to the village just down the mountain. Pulling her friend close, she whispered, can you not let your village know that a family of Yoko are coming to town? Surara looked stunned. You mean he is a water type? You can see why my father would not be pleased. Yes, I can imagine he was rather unhappy at that. That aside, let me see your new one, she said, pointing to the thicker bundle Kushina carried. Looking under the blankets, she saw the blue eyes and furry ears on top of his head. I'll take you to my home. You can be warmer there. We do have guest rooms that are warmer than the rest of the house. That would be appreciated. I am freezing out here. Surara laughed at the image presented. The normally trim woman was covered head to toe, only her eyes showing. It looked like she had at least 3 coats on, maybe 2 hats, at least 5 scarves, and massive boots. She had only recognized her friend due to her aura that she was giving off. Minato, however, was dressed like the average skier, and his was almost completely suppressed. Let's go. At Sarara's house. So do you have any idea what kind of Yoko Naruto will be? Asked Surara. Not really, with Kushina a fire and me a water, it might be one or the other. We will have to wait until his tails grow to find out. Red for fire, white for water, brown for earth, and yellow for air. In all truth the last two aren't really possible and it will be a year at least before he grows his first tail. Surara? Yes Kushina? Is there still too little room in your lodges? Yes. We were thinking of building another one, but we would have to find a place for it. Minato and I were thinking of opening up an inn down in the village. You said that the one there is pitiful and no one likes it. That dump? Yeah, it needs to be torn down. Could we arrange for a transport from the lodge to the main lodges? Interjected Minato. It might be feasible. As Yuki Onna we could keep a road clear for you. Before the conversation could continue further, both children finished eating. After the obligatory burps and spit up, it was time to put them down for a nap. I am sorry Kushina, but would it be okay to put them in the same crib? I have a heating pad that we could use for Naruto. Mizore is still too young for too warm of temperatures. She is older and he can roll around a bit. Kushina responded, that's okay, for some reason, his fur is a little bit longer than we thought it would be. A blanket should be fine. To give you a fair warning, he can already push himself around slightly. So if she is too cold for him, he can move away. He is going to be a strong Yoko when all is said and done. Well, that is good for you. At this the parents continued their conversation. After they turned away Mizore rolled over and grabbed the furry leg of the baby next to her. As time passed the Namikaze family ran a prosperous business. They were known as the only place that could get people up the mountain to ski quickly. At 6 months of age, Naruto sprouted 4 tails, all at the same time. Needless to say this astonished his parents. He had one of each color. This was surprising Bekwase that meant that he could use each style of attacks. They sent proof of his birth and proof of him as a Yoko to the council. Jiraiya delivered it for them. They conveniently left out the fact he had 4 tails. Any remaining search parties were called off because of the laws. However, both were cast from their clans. The majority of the Yuki Onna village was unaware of the presence of Yoko until a real Yeti attacked the village. Luckily Kushina was visiting with Naruto at the time. She ducked into an alley and transformed. Because of the nature of the Yeti was immune to cold, it was having great success until it was surrounded in flame. The snow women drew back afraid of the two. Kushina, in her now 6-tailed form leapt through the flames and spat a fireball at the Yeti's head burning it quickly. Confirming the Yeti's death, she used an illusion to hide herself until she changed back, just moments later. She leapt out of the flames, invisible to all, only dropping her illusion once she was next to Surara again. Needless to say among the adults of the village, there was near hysteria. Surara was able to quell it slightly saying that she personally knew the Yoko from school and that the family was only here to live, not fight. She also shared they had been cast from their clans because of not wanting to fight. The benefits were also shown when Minato was able to extend her fertile period for 2 more years and heal her health problems after it was discovered that the pregnancy had injured her. Mizore had 5 other siblings, one was even a snowboy. Something very rare among their race. The birth of one was said to bring luck to the village. The fact that he had a twin sister was also cause for shock. The identity of the Namikazes was never announced. When healing was needed Minato always came in his Yoko form. When asked who the benevolent Yoko was, even the snow priestess was quiet. She did warn her people that if they spoke of the Yoko to other yokai, then more might come who did not have good intentions in mind. With his healing abilities there was a small boom of children born in the years following. The once quaint village was growing. Apparently the healings gave rise to a noticeable number of twins. With more people available, the slopes were better and drew more people to the mountain. This of course caused the Namikaze business to grow as well. Over the next few years, Naruto and Mizore were inseparable. He didn't mind the cold, and for some reason, she never was bothered by his warmth. It amused their mothers to no end with the teasing opportunities. Unknown to the villagers or the Yuki Onna, Naruto was trained to fight as a Yoko and as a shinobi. They had a training area below their hotel. Luckily seals were able to contain any noise and damage. True to his heritage, he excelled at illusions. Most jutsu he took to like a fish to water. The nature affinity jutsu were particularly easy for him. While she was there, Kushina taught both Surara and Mizore how to use blades. Of course theirs were always ice. Time passed as it always does. When Naruto and Mizore are 12, Jiraiya announced that he is taking Naruto on a training trip. Of course the Namakazes knew, but it was a shock to one purple-haired girl. Shortly after dinner the two were in Naruto's room behind the hotel. Sitting across from each other on the floor, Naruto decided to go first. Mizore, I told you I don't have a choice. I need training to control my Ukai abilities. My parents say that I am stronger than they are. Until I get them under control, there is not much they can teach me. Jiraiya is going to help me with that. He knows how to help get them under control. Naruto, it is almost 3 years. She replied, her voice low, I'll miss you. We've never really been apart for that long. What will I do without you? The last was almost a whisper. Same thing you always do. Have fun with your sisters, tease your brother, help on the slopes, and be a better snowboarder than I am. But I don't even know what type of Ukai you are. You mean even with all of your spying, you never figured it out? How did you know about that? You are a Yuki Onna. Your point? Mizore, we are friends, we grew up together. I do care for you. At this two parties sucked in a breath, the young girl and the mothers watching this play out. The latter was hidden behind illusions and seals so as not to be discovered. You do? But you never told me what you are. Naruto sighed. I will tell you only if you make a promise not to tell anyone. Mizore, seeing a chance that she had hoped for, took it. Only if you make a promise to me in return. I would have to deny the information to a lot of people. A lot of people have asked me, what do you want? In just a little under 5 years' time, when we are 17, take me to the snow-white fields. 2 more people drew in a breath. This time it was Naruto and the mothers watching. Naruto had grown up around the Yuki Onna and as such knew what the request meant. Mizore, promise me, you are the one that I want to take me there. No one else even comes close to knowing and understanding me like you do. In the village I feel like no one sees me most of the time, but when you visit, I feel like I'm visible again. As she said this there were tears in her eyes. Do you really mean that? Of course I do. You mean everything to me. Even if it means you might have to share? This brought her up short. What? Mizore, the type of Ukai that I am, if I am a high enough level, then I will be driven to take multiple mates. At least that is what mom and dad have said. From what my parents tell me I won't be able to control it. I don't like how that sounds. After a few moments of silence he continued, I asked my father and he said it is likely. Jiraiya will know for sure. We don't have access to the clan libraries because my parents were cast out. That is one of the reasons for this trip. Mizore looked at him for a few minutes saying nothing, seeing truth behind his eyes. She slumped slightly. Then straightening she said, as long as I am first, and you can give me children. I can deal with that. At this Naruto blushed. According to my mother we are compatible in that regard. She has told me that often enough. Mizore mirrored Naruto's blush. Well? Naruto looked her in the eye. You know I don't break my promises. I promise you that you and I will go to the snow-white field when we are old enough. At this Mizore couldn't contain herself anymore. She pounced on Naruto and kissed him. It was their first kiss, innocent, yet with a promise of something more. The pair of mothers grew teary-eyed at the scene. When they drew back, Mizore blushed again. I promise I won't tell anyone what kind of Ukai you are. She paused. Are you scary looking? Not really, but you can talk to your mom, she knows. I think she told your dad too. At this, Naruto shifted to what he called his kitsune form. Ears matching his hair sprouted on top of his head, and 12 tails spread out behind him, 3 of each color. This is just a partial transformation. Give me a second and you will see what I look like fully transformed. His form then shifted to that of a large blonde fox with the 12 tails spread out behind him. His head easily would have come up to her waist if she hadn't been sitting on the floor. Mizore was dumbstruck again. Her jaw seemed glued to the floor as Naruto shifted back to his kitsune form. Crouching down next to her, say something Mizore, Naruto began but was cut off as Mizore threw herself at him a second time, this time burying her head into Naruto's chest. Mizore mumbled something into his chest, even with his hearing he couldn't make it out. What was that? Mizore looked up, her face a nice shade of tomato red. Can you? Quote. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow at her. Can you hug me and wrap your tails around me? I always like it when you hug me. She asked studying her feet. Yes, but can we stand? It's not the easiest to do with you on top of me. With that they stood and lightly embraced, the 12 tails almost covering her entirely. Mizore sighed and deepened the hug, pressing herself into her friend. Unfortunately the moment was ruined by ice spears and gouts of flame erupting past the pair and knocking a white-haired figure into the distance. As it faded they heard, "I regret nothing." The next day Jiraiya and Naruto left the village, but before they got onto the train heading from town, a purple-haired blur appeared from behind a bench, kissed Naruto, whispered goodbye, and then took off again. Jiraiya laughed at this, as did several of the humans who were watching. Naruto and Jiraiya had only been gone for a few weeks when Surara cornered her daughter. "You are moping again." Mizore rubbed her eyes and nose on her sleeve. "I'm not," she said, the tone of her voice sounding pitiful even to her. "Your tears are frozen to your face. That only happens when you are very emotional." Mizore lifted her hand to her face and felt that instead of tear tracks, there were tiny rivulets of ice. "So? It doesn't matter." As she said this she pulled them from her skin and threw them across the room, shattering against the far wall. "Would he want you moping the day away?" "No, but he isn't here to pull me outside like he always does. Sitting like this isn't going to help matters any. Nor will it bring him back to push you outside." Mizore said nothing, just pulling her knees in tighter to her chest and putting her forehead onto her knees. When her daughter said nothing, Surara continued, "You haven't even stayed after dinner for dessert. Even your brother is worried about you. Although he doesn't mind not being teased." Surara added as an afterthought. Mizore slumped down onto her bed and pulled a pillow over her head. "I don't want to talk about it. Honey, you need to go do something." Mizore cut her mother off, yelling, "I said it doesn't matter and I don't want to talk about it." Her sobs could be heard, even though she had tried to muffle them through her pillow. Surara sat on the bed next to her daughter. She placed her hand gently on Mizore's shoulder. "I know it hurts. What did he tell you the night before he left?" "I believe it was, have fun with your sisters, tease your brother, help on the slopes, be a better snowboarder than I am." "Have you been doing any of that?" "No. Other than Naruto not being here to be with you, is there any reason why not?" "No. Is there any way that I could convince you to spend a few hours outside?" "No. Nothing at all?" "No." "Fine." Surara stood from the bed and walked toward the door. As she shut it, she said, "Then I guess that I will give letter that came from Naruto to your younger siblings first." She only had made it 2 steps before Mizore burst through the door. She did this without opening the door first. This caused half of her door to fly through the air, only to barely miss her mother. Mizore had transformed, her hair iced over and ice claws showing. Small snowflakes were swirling around her. "You will give me that letter." Mizore's voice was like wind howling along a mountain canyon's walls. Surara turned to look at her daughter. Mizore had managed a full transformation, not just her body, but into the full Yuki Onna persona. As much as Surara was happy that her daughter had found someone, it seemed that she had been shirking her duties as a mother. Her daughter was now entering puberty and needed to be trained. This was a thought for another time. Fixing a stern look on her face, she replied, "Not until you fix your door. It is now in 2 pieces. You also have to spend at least 4 hours outside. Now shift back." Mizore pouted as her features returned to a more human form, then whined, 4 hours? "Yes, 1 for each page of the letter he wrote you. Before you broke your door, it was only going to be 2 hours. For every hour less than 4 I will be giving a page to your brother to taunt you with." Stomping her foot, Mizore said, "That is not fair." "Fair or not, that is how it will be. You need to be outside in 15 minutes, or I will double the time. And Mizore, now that you have managed a full transformation, you and I will be training to control and master your abilities. You have been improving at controlling the show you make and you can make ice kunai, but now you need to go to the next level. We will be working every day after lunch for at least 2 hours." "But mother." "No buts." Her face looked angry for a moment, then softened, a smirk playing over her lips. "Besides," she drawled, "you can have something to share with Naruto in your letter back to him." A teasing smirk was now plastered over her face. Mizore blushed but didn't say anything. "You now have 10 minutes. Get going." At this, Mizore ran back into her room. Surara heard sounds coming from her oldest daughter's room. A few minutes later, Mizore emerged dressed like she was going to go snowboarding. She even had her board with her. "I'm going out. Happy now?" "Not yet. But remember, 4 hours." As her daughter stomped from the room, Surara wondered, should I tell her that Minato gave me a seal that will send the letter to a pocket in Jiraiya's shoulder pouch? Considering he said that Jiraiya would be motivating Naruto in a similar fashion, I probably shouldn't. Besides, holding letters over her head will be a good way to stop her from moping. Surara hummed as she cleaned around the house. She thought, maybe I should teach Mizore to talk with a sucker in her mouth. So few Yuki Onna had mastered that skill. Now that she had managed the full transformation, she would need to keep cool on a more regular basis when out of the village. Moving to where her shopping list hung, she added in another bag of suckers to give to her daughter. 4 hours and 2 seconds later, the front door burst open and Mizore stomped into the room, stopping only to remove her boots. What about my letter? I said you have to fix your door as well. Your father will repair it for you, but you have to take the pieces out to his shed. When you get back, your letter will be in your room. Mizore lugged the 2 pieces from her room. Her job was easier because her father had already removed the pins from the hinges. Setting the last piece down, she ran back to her room and sure enough, a small rectangle of folded paper lay on her pillow. Mizore noted that it was not in an envelope. Surara appeared in her doorway. I didn't read it, if that is what you are going to ask. I just counted the pages so that I would know how long to force you out of the house. I'll leave you alone, and since your door is gone, I'll give you a bit of privacy from your brother and sisters. This time as she turned to leave, a thin wall of ice grew from the doorframe. Sarera's voice came through, I'll be back in 1 hour. Until then I'll leave you alone with your letter. Thanks, mother, Mizore whispered before turning to the papers in her hands. Dear Mizore, I would have written sooner, but Jiraiya was insistent that I reach the first stage of my training before he would let me send you a letter. We are currently in a forest far south of home. Jiraiya explained a few things to me. Mizore, what I am going to tell you, I am only telling you this because I trust you. Don't even talk to your mother about this, she might know, but if this gets out, I might be hunted by the Yoko Council. Because of my parents' training in ninjutsu, it changed something about their Yoko nature. They learned how to use other elemental types, and because of this, the very nature of their Yukai energy changed. Normally a kid will take after only one of their parents. On extremely rare occasions both will be present, but oftentimes the training only focuses on one type, and the other will eventually disappear. My case is even more unique. Somehow I got both my parents' natures plus those they had developed. Jiraiya said that there has never before been a Yoko with all 4 affinities. Both of my parents tried to train me in Yoko techniques, but they didn't work. They focused on elemental manipulation ninjutsu. Apparently because the natures tended to cancel each other out, I couldn't do Yoko techniques. Because all of my tails showed, that means that I couldn't isolate and identify which one to manifest. About the jutsu, you have seen me do some of those in my training. I know you were watching from either the tree branch, the bush, behind the big gray rock, or that one time in the pond. Jiraiya insisted that I be able to isolate each Yoko nature. Because I learned the various jutsu, this happened faster than Jiraiya had thought. I was able to do it in weeks instead of months. Before I couldn't control what types of tails to bring out. Now, I can bring out individual types, meaning I can begin my Yoko training. Mizore paused her reading. Naruto, I knew that you were always special. And you are all mine. Confused at the origin's second thought, Mizore shook her head and continued reading the letter. Easily over half of the letter was talking about the train ride, the exercises that Jiraiya had put him through, and what they planned to do. One thing that Naruto was nervous about is the fact that they will be going to Yoko towns to try to pick up techniques. They were planning on avoiding the fire and water areas if at all possible because both of Naruto's parents had given Jiraiya copies of a lot of those techniques. Mizore was startled about one revelation, but as she thought about it, it made sense. I will say that I finally understand why my mom is always angry at Jiraiya. The toad is a pervert. Not just any pervert, but he practically shouted from the rooftops that he is a super pervert. If you ever see a book with an orange cover that can't be sold to kids, the pervert writes it. He goes by the name the Toad Sage. He said something about the pain of death if I let it slip, but I think he was joking. Then again, he was serious. Erring on the side of caution, we need to keep that just between us. Just to give you an example of how big a pervert the Toad is, a few days ago we went into town and I caught him in a tree using binoculars, and every few minutes he would scribble in a notepad. He was peeking in the public baths. I created an illusion over the women's side that made them all look like men. He fell out of the tree and started throwing up. While that was great, I overdid the illusion. All of the women saw all of the others as men too. This caused a stampede from the bathhouse. The perv of a toad knocked himself out with a nosebleed. I feel bad that I caused the problem. It just got worse when the toad woke up. He kept going on and on about how proud he was of me, and how he just knew that he would be given the chance to show another the way of the pervert. I kicked him into a tree. I'm 12. Besides, I think you would be rather angry with me if I became one. When he picked himself up, he said something about my inner pervert and taking a visit to a special valley. I don't really know what he meant by that, but I have a sneaking suspicion that I will find out all too soon. I miss hanging out with you, Mizor. Knowing you, you have probably been staying inside all this time. Go out, have some fun. Even though I am not there, you can still beat your siblings in a snowball fight. Just remember what I told you. Misdirection is the key to winning battles. Mizor, you told me that you normally feel invisible in the village. I want you to think about something. If you really are invisible, then how could you have been my friend? Mizor stopped and blushed over the last part of the letter. Naruto then reminisced about things they had done together, even mentioning the time they had pulled a prank on Jiraiya by slowly adding a coat of ice beneath his boots as he walked. By the time he had made it to the lodge, he had to couch to even get in the door. The best part about it was that it wouldn't melt. His mother wouldn't remove it either, saying it was fitting for his activities. As she continued to read, both her soft smile and blush grew as she finished what Naruto had written her. Mizor, before I tell you goodbye for now, I just want to let you know that I will keep my promise to you. We will be in that field in just a few years' time. A word of advice, you will need to work on being a little sneakier if you want to watch me more often. When I get back, I will have to hide a whole lot more than I do right now. My mom might be able to help you with that. Your friend, Naruto. Finishing the letter, Mizor fell back onto her bead, hair splayed out behind her. She clutched the letter to her chest like a life preserver. She reread the letter and then hid it in her Naruto diary. Not even Naruto knew she had it. She had detailed some of his various activities in it as well as some of the things they had done together. She then re-hid the diary. Her mother might understand and tease her about it, but never in front of Naruto. Her twerp of a younger brother would definitely bring it up in front of Naruto. Lying back on the bed, her thoughts drifted towards her friend and what he would be doing. Next day after lunch, Surara had taken Mizor to a secluded meadow that was hidden behind massive snowdrifts and rocks. It was one of the Yuki Ona's training grounds. Surara created 2 chairs made of ice and motioned for her daughter to sit. Mizor, the reason why I am starting your training is that once a Yuki Onna reaches puberty, she can begin to train her full powers. However, some of these come at a cost. You will feel a need to stay in the cold more often. That said, there is a way that you will be able to withstand the temperatures that others find comfortable. Let me introduce you to a Yuki Ona's best friend. She then tossed a small sack of suckers to her daughter. These serve 2 purposes. First, when you suck on these, it will help keep your internal temperature down. In fact, I will not let you send a letter back to Naruto until you have mastered talking while it is in your mouth. When her mother didn't continue, Mizor asked, what is the second thing? They are great for teasing both boys and men, of course. Granted, you will only want to do that for Naruto. I will show you a few things in that regard. Mizor simply sputtered and blushed at the implications. Now before we begin your training, you and I need to have a little talk. I know that you definitely have feelings for Naruto. Ignoring her daughter's blush deepening, she continued, you also know that as a Yuki Onna, you have a limited time to have children. So it is my duty as a mother to ensure that you know exactly the best ways to do that. Once we are done, we will begin your training. At this, Mizor felt a chill run down her spine. She was a Yuki Onna. She wasn't supposed to get cold. The one-sided conversation that followed left Mizor highly embarrassed, but a very small corner of her mind had been very active in taking notes, not that she would ever tell her mother that. Now Mizor, if you ever have any questions about any of that, don't hesitate to ask. As you continue to go through puberty, your body will get you more and more interested in the topic. When you are older and with Naruto, if you need any suggestions or even new ideas, I could lend you something that I have found to be extremely helpful and fun. With this, she drew a little orange book from her kimono. I don't really know who the Toad Sage is, But his books are very useful in keeping things fun between your father and I. He even has human and yokai versions of his work. If such a thing was possible, Mizore whitened further, then toppled from her chair. Her mind stopped itself to avoid creating mental images of her parents that she would have to burn out of her brain later. To avoid the trauma, she blissfully slipped into unconsciousness. Naruto, before we go to start your training with an air Yoko combat, we need to make sure your illusions are up to snuff. What do you mean, pervy toad? Naruto had taken to calling him this merely because it irritated the man. A tick now showing on the man's forehead, gritting his teeth, he ground out, Yoko are masters at making and breaking illusions. Only one other race comes close. No, it is not Kitsune. They use similar methods, so we need someone who is adept at finding other ways of making illusions. If you can stand up to their tests and their illusions, then we will proceed. Until then we will stay there. The white-haired man continued with a small giggle, then a line of drool escaped his lips. Naruto heard another giggle, such strenuous tests. Rolling his eyes, Naruto decided to deliberately ignore his teacher and guide. While Jiraiya was a formidable opponent, he had difficulty fighting above the equivalent of a three-tailed Yoko. Naruto had managed a few air attacks just on accident. They were enough to keep the toad on his toes during their spars. So how long until we get there? This broke the man out of his daydream. A few days. In the meantime, you will be working on some of the higher-end wind jutsu I will teach you. The first that you must master is Beast Wave, Palm, and then Beast Wave, Gale Wind Palm. Since you already have your wind affinity honed, you will practice these when we stop for lunch and dinner. If you are able to master those, I will let you learn the vacuum techniques that your father stole from Danzo. Why am I learning all attack techniques? I know there are a handful of defense ones out there. Jiraiya looked at his pupil, surprised by the question. From time to time he forgot that Naruto actually could analyze things very well. The answer is simple. One of the reasons that the air Yoko are effective is that they heavily on defense and misdirection of attacks with minimal force. In a battle of attrition, they always win. There aren't that many offensive techniques that they use. Knowing these should round out your air fighting style nicely. Will you be doing the same with the other types as well? Of course. I have trained some exceptional people in my time. Part of that is seeing holes in techniques and styles and finding a way to make them more balanced. Think about your Yoko natures. When you try to use them without direction, they don't work. They exploit each other's weaknesses instead of working to strengthen each other. You will need to work to pull off some of the techniques that I have discovered. If you can combine portions of attacks, you can pull off things that most human shinobi view as exclusive to bloodlines. What do you mean? Call me Jiraiya for the rest of the day and I'll tell you. Naruto grumbled. Sensing that the small favor might be worth it, he acquiesced. Fine, I promise I won't call you pervy toad the rest of the day. You mean that? Of course I do. I don't break my promises. Well, let me put it this way, if you combine wind and water properly you will be able to make and manipulate ice just like your little girlfriend. Naruto started to glare at Jiraiya but then stopped. First, because after the promise he made to her, she could be called his girlfriend. Second, Mizore hadn't wanted to learn how to use her abilities because it would put Naruto at a disadvantage. This would motivate her to work harder. And she could teach him a few things. I can see that you are realizing the implications of this training. You can use a wider range of abilities than you thought, huh? I'll tell you what, every time you call me perverted when I am not doing anything perverted. That means there is one less thing I will teach you and leave you to figure out on your own. But, if you agree to this, I will teach you everything I can to make you able to use your abilities to their full potential. Some will take a long time and lots of practice, but others will be easy. Naruto thought on this as they walked. One condition, if I catch you doing anything perverted I can try to stop it. If you say no, I will write my mother about your activities. Jiraiya's face was red with anger then rapidly paled. Fine, but only if the lady or ladies in question wanted to stop. I am after all irresistible to women in general. Internally he smirked, the brat doesn't even know about the tracking seal in his shoe. This will be a piece of cake. Naruto was mentally celebrating his victory. Jiraiya doesn't know about the seal I put inside of his pen that when it is used, I'll know. The truce in place, the pair finally stopped for lunch. Jiraiya explained the two jutsu to Naruto, then his eyes boggled at the sea of shadow clones that appeared. Before he could say anything, Naruto spoke up. Dad told me to use them to speed up my training. He also told you that this overrode anything you had to say about it. But I can only use them when others aren't around, and only then. He made me promise that. He said I have to learn more than 4 times as much as any other Yoko, and to be effective I need to use them. Jiraiya begrudgingly agreed. This would cut into his research time. As they ate lunch, the clones managed to pull off one of the techniques. The clone who had done so immediately dispersed. Naruto grinned, then made a second batch, working to refine it. The first batch continued one with trying to attempt the second of the 2 jutsu. Before lunch his clones had successfully done each one, but they could not do it quickly nor strong enough to be aggressive. Jiraiya saw this, then corrected himself. This would really cut into his research time. Then he grinned. Naruto had to learn 4 fighting styles and multiple jutsu, not to mention the special ones like ice and wood. Good thing he had a lot of training scrolls. A few days later, Naruto, here we are. A utopia and pilgrimage point for all men. Succubus Valley. Naruto stared at his teacher, mumbling under his breath, maybe all perverted men. Then out loud he said, "Are you sure this isn't something perverted that you are doing?" "No, I meant it when I said that they use a different method to break illusions. They also use illusions differently than Yoko, and some of the upper-level Succubi could give the Yoko clan council members difficulty if used properly." "How do they do it?" "That is for you to find out. In fact, until you can beat it we won't be leaving. I won't let you send another letter to your ice princess either. We will be staying with Agaya, she is a friend of your mother's. Since you haven't hit puberty yet, you should be relatively safe." "Safe from what?" "Mom and Dad didn't tell me a lot about Succubi." Naruto didn't want to mention that he had started puberty, since all Yukai started early. He did find Mizore attractive after all. "Well, my pupil, I think it is time you learned. They are my favorite type of Yukai." Entering the valley, they were following directions on a map, when Naruto saw multiple bat-winged figures swooping down towards him. He was shifting into a fighting stance when he found his hands full of the map and directions. "Go to the house and tell Agaya that we are here, I have some business to conduct." The white-haired man then jumped away from Naruto, then was mobbed by the winged girls that had descended. He was carried away as they were squealing his name. Naruto shook his head. This fell under the category of their truce, so he couldn't do anything about it. Sighing, he wound his way through the town, making several wrong turns before finally finding a very nice 2-story manor house. He rang the doorbell and waited. A girl about his size opened the door. She had light blue hair and purple eyes. "Is this the Kurono residence?" Kurumu, recently gaining her succubus powers and thereby her attraction to boys, looked at the boy in front of her. He stood a little taller than her, with a hint of muscle, bright blonde hair, and deep blue eyes. There was a small aura of strength around him. Unconsciously she activated her allure. He looked at her for a moment before shaking his head. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't stare. Is this the Kurono residence?" "Yes." A look of relief spread over the boy's face. Kurumu then thought, he looks cute like that. This caused her allure to activate a second time. Naruto stared for another moment before breaking free again and apologizing again. "I'm sorry. My name is Naruto. My teacher Jiraiya said that he spoke to Agaya about us staying here for a few days. She's my mother. My name is Kurumu. If you would come in I will call her." "Thank you. I will." Naruto sat down on a rather large couch. It was long enough that if he wanted to, he could make a clone and both of them could lay down on it. It was also very comfortable. Kurumu came back into the room. "Mother is out in town doing some shopping. She will be back shortly." She seemed to fight herself over the next question. "Why are you staying here?" "Oh, my mom and yours were friends at school." "Really? I thought most Yukai didn't like Succubi." "Why not? I haven't seen a reason to not like any. They seemed to like my teacher well enough. He said that they were his favorite type of Yukai." This was met with silence. "Kurumu, may I ask a question?" "Sure. Why did you say most Yukai don't like the Succubi?" She sighed. "A succubus gains power from being loved and adored. Until they find their destined one, they need that from others and use any means to get it. Once they are with their destined one, then they shift to making that man happy and only that man happy. But they still flirt a lot if it took them a while to find their destined one. My mom is like that." Naruto thought this over. "Well, I can understand why people would not like them. But that is stupid." Kurumu had wilted under his first statement but perked back up with his second. "What do you mean? It's like vampires. They need blood to survive. They get their power from that. Not liking a succubus for that is like not liking a vampire because it drinks blood. Kurumu looked shocked. She had never thought of that before. Naruto? She asked, her voice unsteady. Yeah? Can we be friends? There isn't anyone here around my age. All of the older girls just talk about seducing boys and don't want to do any of the things I want to do. Sure, I won't be here long, but we can be friends. What do you like to do? Promise you won't laugh? Sure, I like to cook and fly. Naruto chuckled at this. It's not what you think. My mom always said that a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. That might help you to find your destined one. After a moment of silence, Naruto gained a serious look on his face. Kurumu? Yes. Can you make ramen? Agaya unlocked the door. With a sigh, she set down the groceries and noticed a travel pack and extra shoes by the door. She thought, those must belong to Jiraiya's student. She heard noises coming from the kitchen. Turning the corner, she was shocked by what she saw. There were multiple signs of a food fight. Her daughter was pinned, even in succubus form, by a three-tailed kitsune who was straddling her stomach, pinning both her arms and wings with his knees. He was dangling noodles over her daughter's mouth and she was trying to avoid them. In a mountain village a good distance away, Mizor's brother had ducked the icy projectiles that had been aimed toward him. Surara was shocked. Young lady, what are you doing attacking your brother like that? I am not exactly sure, mother. I just had an overwhelming desire to stab something with blue hair. It is very strange. Then turning to her brother, she apologized, I am sorry. I really don't know what came over me. Her brother, having not practiced with his abilities, decided then and there that he needed to be able to defend himself. Primarily from his crazy older sister. I told you, they taste excellent. It is my mother's secret noodle recipe. Now eat them. Her daughter looked ready to laugh. No. Nothing can beat my Murgle. At the opening this provided, the boy shoved a noodle-covered pair of chopsticks into her mouth and simply said, chew. Seeing her daughter do exactly that, Agaya waited until she had swallowed before making her presence known. What is going on, Here? The two kids looked up and saw her, then hurriedly jumped apart. Her daughter spoke first. Mom, this is Naruto. He is Jiraiya's student. A stern eye from the older succubus roamed the kitchen. Flour on the floor, egg on the walls, an overturned bowl of broth, and something unidentifiable stuck to the ceiling were merely samples of the disaster that was present. You will clean this up before he gets back. A pair of voices promptly replied, yes ma'am. Agaya made her way up to her room before she broke into laughter. Oh, to be young again. At least her daughter was having fun. Jiraiya showed up shortly before dinner, his clothes torn and ragged. Another fight, Jiraiya? Yes. When will you learn that there are no lengths that a succubus will not go to in order to be in one of your books? You are one of the exceptions. Well, that goes without saying. So why do you need my help with this boy? Jiraiya took the next few minutes explaining about Naruto and what he needed. Agaya pondered it. I will do what you need. But at a price. Raising an eyebrow, Jiraiya asked, oh? Move your plans up a few years. Kurumu wants a sister. And I am sick of the vamping around. I want you here with me. Besides, a village of succubi can provide you all the research you need. You know I hate being away. You also know why I have to leave from time to time. But I need you here. Agaya, love, I know. Once this training trip is done, I will go back, fake my death with Konoha, and we can focus on my writing again. After all, no one there knows I write those books. Agaya chuckled huskily, your daughter and pupil are out flying. If we are careful we can spike their dinner to get them to fall asleep faster. Wrapping her arms around her destined one, she merely kissed him and said, I love you. And I love what you are doing for my people. The following morning, Naruto stumbled down the steps. Upon entering the kitchen saw Kurumu preparing breakfast. She looked up at him and grinned, sleep well? His hair was tousled and eyes still not fully opened. He grunted noncommittally, I just wanted to say thanks for going flying with me yesterday. It was easier than I thought it would be carrying another person. Naruto slurred out, you're welcome. Naruto then promptly started lightly snoring, staying in an upright position. He had used quite a bit of chakra to keep them aloft by manipulating wind currents. In fact, the drugged supper only made him fall asleep that much faster. It also hadn't fully worn off. He would have used Yukai, but he didn't want her to know that he was helping. He thought she might be offended at that. Agaya came to the table covered surprisingly well in a bathrobe. Kurumu pushed a cup of tea in front of her mother. "Here, you look like you need this." After rapidly drinking the offered beverage, Agaya replied, "Thanks. The company has a meeting with a very popular author today. He has made the company quite a bit of money, so we need to keep him happy. I will be gone most of the day." Ignoring Naruto's snoring, she whispered to her daughter, "I will need your help with him." Kurumu leaned in. "Oh? He needs to learn to withstand succubus techniques." "Why?" "Part of the favor that Jiraiya asked of me. He can already break free of the allure." A thin eyebrow raised. "How do you know this?" "It kinda came on accidentally when I first met him. I thought he was cute. All he did was stare for a brief second, then he shook himself free of it." Agaya schooled her face to show no emotion. Inwardly she was panicking. "Well, how about you take him shopping? Show him the village. Besides, with 2 extra mouths here I didn't get enough groceries for the week." The conversation was cut off as Naruto fell over, head impacting the floor causing him to wake up again. This happened right as Jiraiya entered the room, causing laughter to erupt. Kurumu and Naruto wandered around the town. Naruto had no interest in the business section, but once they wandered to the open-air market, it appeared that he was in his element. Naruto was able to haggle with the merchants on a few things that he wanted to send back to his parents as souvenirs. While he was doing this, Kurumu looked at a small jewelry stand. The pieces were nice and tasteful, if a little bit expensive. Naruto came up behind her and saw her staring at one particular item. After examining the other pieces, he picked up a silver necklace with a gold pendant on it, as well as the headband that she had been looking at. The purple matched her eyes perfectly. She stood transfixed at what happened. Naruto bargained the man down to just under 2/3 the cost. After the two had shook hands and exchanged the money, Naruto and Kurumu started to make their way back to the house. Naruto handed the headband to Kurumu. "Here, that way you have something too." She blushed at the gift, holding it in front of her like a treasure. "Put it on, it's meant to be worn, not held." Using a store window she put it in her hair. It looked as nice as she thought it would. Turning to Naruto she simply asked, "Why?" Rubbing the back of his head he replied, "My mom taught me to always be nice to your friends and important people. You looked like you really wanted it. Now you have something to remember me by." "Who is the necklace for?" Naruto grinned, "A very special friend. Do you think she will like it? Does she like non-flashy jewelry?" "Yeah, then she will like it." Having gotten the opinion of another girl, Naruto was even more confident in his purchase. The rest of the walk was quiet. When they arrived back at the house, they unpacked their purchases, or in Naruto's case packed up the souvenirs. In an office on the other side of town, Agaya and Jiraiya sat eating a light lunch surrounded by business reports, submissions for art, and requests for an appearance from the Toad Sage to a particular place, usually a bookstore. All papers in the final category were destined for the trash. She said that he threw off her allure? Agaya looked at Jiraiya for a brief moment before responding. It only affected him for a brief moment. She is young, but it should have been strong enough to at least make him do more than just look closely at her. "Well, that means either one of two things," Jiraiya muttered, ignoring the work they were supposed to be doing. "You did say that he is a high-level Yukai for his age. That is likely. We will have to test him when he is older to see if that is indeed the case. For now, however," Jiraiya's voice trailed off, "you have to leave again. Don't you? We both know what will happen if indeed the second option is the case. I think we could stay a few days at most. Either way we need to leave. Tonight after dinner, try your allure on him, just to see if it works. We will have our answer then." Jiraiya stood outside the front door with Naruto's pack. "Naruto, we have to leave." At this Kurumu's face fell. Her first friend had to leave just a few days after they had met. They wouldn't even stay for lunch. Agaya came up behind her daughter. "Go give him a hug before he leaves. I don't think he'll mind." The blue-haired girl tackled the young man in front of her. "I'll miss you. Write me please." At his affirming nod, she then rushed inside. Naruto was about to ask a question but was silenced by the look on his teacher's face. Before anyone could do anything, the young succubus ran back outside, with 2 sacks in hand. "Here, that way you have something to eat on your way." There were rice balls and a few other foods. Naruto smiled at his new friend. Then, shouldering his pack, he followed Jiraiya out of the valley. In a snow-covered training area Mizore was panting heavily. Her mother's initial training consisted of target practice, dodging, and making snow and ice until she couldn't stand. She even had to make the ice and snow into various shapes. She could already pull of certain colors. That training had long since passed. It was basic for forming an ice clone. Today her mother had pushed her harder than before. She could now make enough ice to encase a small tree multiple times. Some of her other training was also nearing completion. She was happy that earlier today, she had mastered talking and even singing while still having a sucker in her mouth. That meant she could write a letter to Naruto today. All the more reason to finish with the exercises her mother had said that she was to do today. This was not the only training that she had undertaken. Per Naruto's letter, Mizore had also approached Kushina about stealth training. After all, if a Yuki Onna was unable to spy on the object of their affection, where was the fun in that? Even though he had promised that they would be together eventually, she always found it interesting and fun to follow Naruto around. Especially in the human village. There were so many places where she could hide. Humans gave her the weirdest looks when she was practicing her observational skills. In the village, she was the only girl who really had a romantic interest that would visit the village, and most mothers would give her tips on where the best spots were. It would be more fun for her if Naruto didn't know she was watching him. The training with Kushina, although her answer had not been given yet, would be heavily involved in stealth and suppression of her Yukai aura. Apparently that is what Naruto always noticed when she had tailed him to a private spot to watch him train. She was told that it took quite a bit of time to be able to properly accomplish what she had set out to do, but she would work hard anyway. Her efforts would show in a little over a year's time when she had, in fact, surprised her mother while she was following her dad around. Her mother was one of the better of the village at following people unnoticed. Before Naruto returned, she would have even managed to surprise Kushina. It was the oddest thing though, there were several younger Yuki Onna who had come to her with tips on how to follow her brother around. When she asked her mother about that, she was informed that other younger Yuki Onna looked up to her and she was an easy access point to her brother. Mizore, after this, had put a camera in her brother's room and at times offered to let some of the girls watch. For a price, of course. She needed to start putting money aside. She would need it at a later date. Like for surveillance equipment or Naruto's birthday. Thoughts of her blonde bow caused the ice she was forming to become an ice sculpture of a Yoko, with 12 tails flowing behind it. Unconsciously she had managed to change the ice slightly to allow for details to be shown. That night she had burned into her memory and had taken to daydreaming about being wrapped in those tails again. This further distracted her and her sculpture took on a more lifelike appearance. Surara noticed that in the middle of creating an ice shield, her daughter gained a rather distant look and her shield had become a sculpture, in excellent detail as well. Maybe she could get her to start working with some of the Yuki Onna who made ice sculptures for one of the catering companies that they had recently started working with. But that wasn't the point of today's exercise. Throwing a piece of ice shaped like a hockey puck, it glanced off of her daughter's shoulder. Distracted again, Mizore? At her daughter's blush and lack of response, she sighed. Let's stop for today. Besides, I need to get a few things done up at the lodge. This was her special code for spying on her husband as he made repairs to various things at the ski resort. After all, she didn't want her skills to get rusty. Mother and daughter slipped through the woods and made their way back down to the lodges. The Namikaze's hotel shuttle was unloading a bunch of tourists. If Kushina was driving, then Mizore might be able to get a ride back to the village. It now had an ice road covered by an illusion, of course, that some of the workers at the lodge would use to get to and from work. Kushina was on the shuttle but not driving. Seeing Mizore, she came over smiling. Good afternoon, Mizore. A grin was plastered on her face. Having a good day? Mizore shrugged then replied, kind of, just working with mom on some stuff. Have you had a chance to think about what I had asked you? About the training? I asked Minato and he said that he was fine with it. I only have one condition. No sneaking into our house. You need to call first. Besides, we like having you over. Kushina replied with a smirk. Mizore blushed but said nothing. The night before Naruto left, Mizore had snuck out of her house and into the Namikaze's. She spent the night cuddled up next to Naruto. She left before he had woken up but was unsure if her presence at their house and absence from her own was noticed. Kushina was hinting that indeed she had been caught or seen in some form but no one had said anything about it. But, Kushina drawled, that isn't the reason why I came up here today. She then paused again, but at Mizor's hopeful look she continued, "Naruto sent us a box, and had something in there for you as well. Jiraiya hadn't let him write a letter to mail to you, so he included it in our package." I don't think Jiraiya noticed. Kushina dug in her pockets, missing the impatient and eager look of the girl in front of her. Hopefully this will make a kind of good day into a good one. Need a lift? The driver was hired by these tourists and is staying up here for a day on the slopes. Apparently they don't trust a woman to drive mountain roads. She then leaned in conspiratorially, "That's okay though, I charged them double for the use of the shuttle." Finally checking the inner pockets of her coat and finding the right one, and ending the young girl's misery, she produced a small box and an envelope. Both items were snatched quickly out of her hands by an impatient girl. Mizor practically flew from the lodge to the small bus, settled in a seat, then taking a moment to decide, ripped open the box first. Inside was a simple necklace. The chain was a flexible sectioned silver chain with a round gold pendant that looked to be a pendant or an extremely thin locket. It was a piece of jewelry that would look good on both a blossoming young lady or an adult woman. Kushina whistled, "That looks nice. Do you need help putting it on?" Mizor couldn't speak as she shook her head. Naruto had never bought her jewelry before. To a Yuki Onna, jewelry of any kind meant that the relationship was indeed very serious. She speculated that Naruto was likely to know this already. Her hands shook slightly as she put it on. Looking at her reflection in the bus window, she noted that the necklace, though simple, seemed to fit her somehow. Kushina noted the faraway look on the younger girl's face as she caressed the necklace. Kushina figured that she would try to make Mizor blush a little bit more. "You know, in the letter to us, he said that he picked up these souvenirs in Succubus Valley. That meant he still thought of you even when he was surrounded by them. Not only that, since they care a lot about looks, then that means that is likely a very good quality work. It might be able to even withstand your transformations." This comment indeed caused her blush to deepen, and also her eyes became even more glazed over. There were a few Yuki Onna that were also headed home for the day. A few of them noted the necklace, since younger Yuki Onna didn't wear any jewelry, often waiting to be given it. Mixing that fact with the extremely faraway look in her eyes as she subconsciously ran her fingers along the necklace, many of those on the bus knew what had occurred. This caused gentle smiles and whispers among the older snow women. After all, it was an important day for the girl. Many of them already knew about Naruto and Mizor being close, but no one outside their families and Jiraiya knew about Naruto's promise. The short ride was spent with Mizor daydreaming about Naruto, and the older Yuki Onna talking among themselves at the younger girl's luck in finding a potential spouse so early. Mizor was snapped out of her daydreaming, some of it causing her to blush even deeper, by Kushina shaking her shoulder. "We're here. Go home. Read the letter. Have a good day." The same smile was still on her face. Mizor felt like she was floating as she walked home. Again she drew slight giggles and whispers from those around her as she made her way to her house. Once inside the house, she quickly ran to her room and shut the door. Freezing the lock so her siblings wouldn't burst into her room in the middle of her reading the letter, she opened the envelope and began reading. The letter was short this time. But because it arrived only a short time after a long letter and with such a nice present, this fact was fine with her. "Mizor, this letter won't be very long. I wanted to get it in the package before Jiraiya noticed. He thinks this is the last page of a letter to my parents. While we were in the Succubus Valley, I visited an open-air market with a friend that I had made and saw this. I hope that you like it. I don't think that the merchant knew what he had. The metal is very strong but flexible, meaning it should be fine for you to wear. I etched a seal into the back of the locket so that it won't become brittle in the cold, just in case. We are headed towards an air Yoko city. Jiraiya has made a deal of sorts with a few yokai there so that they will be training me. He wouldn't tell me where it is, and I have to go in under a few illusions. Hopefully, I'll be able to write you soon. I will be going under a fake name, so on the outside of any envelope you need to write the name Arashi. Just in case someone were to see it. If you have any questions why I am going in disguise, ask my mom or yours, either one of them can explain why. I would but don't have the time to go into it. Besides, you always loved those spy novels, just imagine you and I are living in one of your books." At this Mizor's mind drifted to a few scenes from those books that caused her to turn a rather bright shade of red. She shook off those thoughts, saving them for later, then returned to the letter. I hope you like the necklace. I picked it up to make sure you knew that I knew what I promised and so that you would have something to remember me by. I wanted to tell you something that I found out, but I don't want to get your hopes up for nothing, but do me a favor. Learn as many ice techniques as you can. If I can pull it off, then you will need them. I won't say anything else. Your boyfriend, Naruto. After reading the letter, Mizore promised herself that, in return for the necklace, she would be able to sneak up on Naruto when he came home. It would show a similar level of devotion from her as a snow woman. It then hit her, he had referred to himself as her boyfriend without any prompting on her part. This caused her brain to shut down again. In the Yuki Onna culture, the two things combined were one step short of an engagement. She then lay on her bed for a few hours just looking at the simple note and touching the necklace. If it could get even better, the seal he had etched looked like a snowflake. She didn't think this present could be improved upon at all. She was unaware of the time passing until her youngest sister came to get her for dinner. This astounded and almost euphoric state lasted the rest of the week. Mizore walked most places in a daze with a grin on her face, garnering giggles, questions, and in the case of one younger brother, who had dared to make a negative comment about the whole scenario, frozen only in his underwear in a block of ice 15 feet in the air. This feat took 5 adult Yuki Onna to break apart. Before that happened, however, Mizore made sure to direct a few of his followers to the site where they could snap a photo or two for their diaries. Surara didn't even punish her daughter once she found out what had caused her son to be publicly displayed. He, however, was warned that if he repeated those comments around his mother that she would ensure he stayed that way for an entire day, only in less clothing. He wisely never broached the subject again. Time passed as it always does. With Naruto using the shadow clones to study scrolls, he picked up the air Yoko fighting style in a little over 6 months. He had to be careful to not show too much proficiency, otherwise it would draw the attention of the Air Yoko Council. His use of the Henge Jutsu combined with some illusionary techniques allowed him to remain unrecognizable during this time. Jiraiya's plan was using his books that acted as bribes in order to find a teacher. When Naruto learned this, he cried to the heavens about perverted teachers. Interestingly enough, as he progressed, he sprouted another 2 yellow tails. This shocked his instructor as well as Jiraiya. When he has integrated all of the techniques and was proficient in the style, on the last night in the city, he sprouted another 2 tails. He hid them from Jiraiya and his instructor. 7 tails and higher was considered very strong among Yoko. Lesson number 1 of a shinobi is misdirection. That, and he didn't want to draw attention to himself. Naruto had been warned by his parents that any Yoko with 7 tails or more was immediately brought to the attention of the Yoko councils. His instructor had given him copies of scrolls containing high-level techniques because of his progress, with the promise that should he sprout more tails to learn them and tell him. They had a 7-tail requirement to work anyway. He would study them without Jiraiya's knowledge. It would be nice to have a trump card that even his teacher didn't know of. A similar experience happened when he was learning Earth Yoko techniques. Before leaving, he had grown another 4 tails, all brown. This pattern also repeated itself with fire and water. He also noticed that he grew a little taller with each tail. Apparently his body forced a change every time one grew. He was closing in on his father in height with all of the growing he did. When he let all of his tails out, he thought he looked like a vulpine version of a peacock. But since everyone knew about the strength of a Yoko by their tails, it did look rather intimidating at times. In fact, Jiraiya had made a rather perverted comment about them once. The resulting damage took over a week for Jiraiya to heal even with the help of a water Yoko clan healer. They saved the most dangerous 2 cities for last. The water and fire Yoko cities were extremely closely watched for any possible leaders and strength. This was due to increased tension among the 2 sides. It would not be good if he was discovered in the city and found out to be Minato and Kushina's son. Naruto had to hide his abilities as he learned the fighting styles. His parents had supplied Jiraiya with technique scrolls. These, Naruto didn't learn until they were away from the cities. He also picked up healing techniques. Nothing like his father was able to do, but those would come with time. When they were done with the main Yoko training, 2 years had passed. And Naruto had doubled the amount of tails he had. It was bothersome to have them all out at the same time, so often he only revealed 2 or 3 of a particular type when necessary. The last bit that surprised Jiraiya was the fact he had snuck into the libraries of all of the cities and copied their libraries with the jutsu his father developed. When asked why he did it, Naruto simply responded, training. Why else? Now they had complete access to all of the Yoko techniques and styles. His parents had said that once he set off to high school they were thinking of having another child. Should he or she turn out similar to Naruto, then the information would indeed help. The remaining time was spent mixing the training for some of the effects that Jiraiya had mentioned. After about a month Naruto had learned to make ice by combining the water and air. It was difficult since the two Yoko natures hadn't wanted to work together. But he did notice that the ice melted really slowly. He then worked on combining air and fire. He had accidentally discovered that mixing the two caused explosions. After he finished healing from the initial discovery, like any male teenager given the chance to work with explosives, he immediately worked to get the mixture under control. Granted, it wasn't just to make things go boom, but he did think it was a big perk. His third to work on was wood and plant techniques. The scroll for these was very complicated and Naruto had managed to pull it off as they were making their way back home. He had written Mizore frequently, sharing stories about his training, the people who he met and the places he visited. He would occasionally send her pictures and other souvenirs. He didn't tell her about the specialty techniques he was working on. Her letters were keeping him up to date on what was happening at home. She would always tell him that she was proud of him, and keep him updated on how she had improved as well. Naruto had also kept up a lighter correspondence with Kurumu. The succubus was very glad for that and told Naruto that she wanted to visit some of the places that he talked about visiting during his training. She always mentioned that he should come back for a visit. It was boring not having anyone her age to talk to. He would occasionally get her something from his travels as well. Between the letters Kurumu and Naruto had maintained and deepened their friendship to more than the recent acquaintance-new friends stage that they still had when Naruto had left the Succubus Valley. Just 3 months before he was scheduled to return home, 3 things happened. First, he received a letter from his mother stating that they had enrolled him at Yukai Academy. He had informed Mizore about this and was told that her mother had enrolled her about the same time. Mizore explained that Surara had told her that she was enrolled to make sure that Naruto wasn't swayed to break his promise. While he wouldn't, it would still be an opportunity for another Yukai to attempt to take her promised spouse. They would be attending the school together. This made both parties rather excited about the prospect. Naruto for the chance to be with her again and Mizore for the spying opportunities that this presented. Kurumu informed him that she was going as well. While she didn't say it in the letter, she was looking forward to seeing how Naruto shaped up during his trip. The second was that Naruto stumbled across some of Jiraiya's notes and Naruto discovered the purposes of Jiraiya's books. He was sworn to secrecy about the real reason why they were written and also the fact that he was a destined one of a succubus. This information caused him to re-evaluate a lot of what he thought about the perverted toad. Not that he was perverted, that would never change, but the reasons behind Jiraiya's actions. The third thing that happened was as he and Jiraiya were passing through a human city. Jiraiya was sick, so Naruto was just wandering around. Passing an alleyway, he saw a pink-haired girl being chased by a smaller orange-haired girl wielding a giant mace. Naruto quickly ran up alongside the orange-haired girl and tripped her. The speed she was going at along with the weight of her weapon indicated that she was some form of Yukai. These two also caused her to land hard and bounce a few times. The mace had grazed his forehead and shoulder because he had to get so close to the girl. Naruto slapped a knockout seal on her for good measure. The pink-haired girl kept running but fell over before the end of the alley. Naruto jogged over to help her up. "Are you okay? I'm sorry. I am anemic and can't run for too long." "Why was she chasing you?" "That is my sister. She does that quite a lot." At this, the girl stumbled again. "I'm sorry, but I'm still rather dizzy." "Are you a Yukai, like your sister? How did you know?" Her voice shook and shock was evident on her face. Simple. A girl her size should not be able to run as fast as she was, nor swing around a mace that big. Also, I am one myself. Your aura is there, but feels heavily suppressed. What kind are you? I'd rather not say. Why not? I'm scary. Naruto just laughed. Not much scares me. She looked at him for a long moment. I'm a vampire. She replied, barely in a whisper. Well, that explains why you are anemic. Out of blood packs and tomato juice? At this the girl just stared at her rescuer as she nodded. You don't mind the fact that I am a vampire? Nah, I was raised not to judge someone until I got to know them. I have met good and bad humans and yokai. Just because you were born a vampire isn't a reason to hate you. The pink-haired girl forced back tears. Thank you. Any response on Naruto's part was ground out by a grumble from her stomach. Hungry? She blushed, a little bit. Naruto tilted his head to one side after making sure that no one would see them. There was still a thin line of blood trailing down the side of his head as his chakra helped his body to heal. Go ahead, I heal very fast. But I just met you, The scent was appealing. Don't worry about it. You are hungry, I heal fast, and you need to get out of here before the Carrot Top terror wakes back up. You can't do that without feeding. Don't worry about it. The girl, not moving, found her head gently guided to his neck, the veins pulsed, teasing her. Go ahead, it's okay. Her fangs came out unbidden, before she could stop herself. He smelled almost as good as some of the people in her class. She lightly bit him after licking some of the blood that was on his neck. She was not prepared for what happened next. Normally she only would get 1 or 2 sensations from blood she drank. Since it came from a pack, those were dulled and barely there. This was something else entirely. Simultaneously it was an explosion of tastes and feelings as she drank from his neck. It was exquisite. She had never tasted anything like this. A few days' travel away, a pink-tinted snowman that her younger sister made using her powers was impaled with ice spikes that exploded from a suddenly irate Mizore. Her mother was rather angry at her. When asked why, Mizore apologized and simply replied, I don't know. An uncontrollable urge to destroy something pink came over me. I just couldn't stop. She then helped her sister remake the snowman. Instinctively, Mocha began drinking deeper. She sucked hard against his neck, and marveled that there was someone who, even though she was drinking his blood, was not afraid of her, nor was he yelling at her to stop. Who knew that another yokai could taste so good? She had heard that most were rather bland or tasted horrible. Even relatively fresh human blood was not this tasty. Her whole world seemed brighter, more alive than before. Her rosario rattled as she drank her fill. As her hunger was sated, she pulled off. Thank you. You didn't have to. I don't even know your name. Naruto rubbed his neck as it healed. She must have been rather hungry. Naruto Namikaze. I am just visiting. I am heading home in a few days from training in the use of my yokai abilities. I am going to Yokai Academy soon. What about you? My name is Mocha Akashiya. I start this year. I'm so glad to get out of my current school. Great, I will have to introduce you to a few friends of mine that are starting at the same time. Mocha blushed. You would do that for me? Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Sure, why not? No one likes vampires. At this Naruto raised an eyebrow. Let me ask you a question, Mocha. How is school right now for you? Everyone ignores me. I don't have any friends. And I really don't like humans. Remember what I said before you ate? I have met good and bad of both yokai and humans. Don't be so quick to judge someone just because of who they were born to be. Do that and you are no better than those who are afraid of you because you are a vampire. None of my friends are the same type of yokai that I am anyway. Mocha looked shocked. She had never really thought about it that way. Before her train of thought could continue, Naruto interrupted. I'll be your friend if you want one. I have met a few people who haven't had many friends in life due to circumstances beyond their control. Look, classes start in just a few weeks. He paused, then pulled a scrap of paper out of his pocket. If you want to talk, write me a letter at this address. I will be there in a few days' time. I will stay there until the bus comes and picks my friend and me up. I'm sure we can find a way to meet back up once school starts back up. Thank you, Naruto. That is too nice of you. Her blush now covered most of her face. Her stomach grumbled again. She lunged for his neck. Naruto stopped her and twisted her away. You may be a vampire, and I may have allowed you to feed, but you can't just take a drink whenever you like. Ask first. A little politeness goes a long way. A sheepish look appeared on her face. This then changed into a puppy dog pout. Naruto? Could I have another little sip? Naruto and Jiraiya made their way toward the town. He had asked Jiraiya to keep quiet about when they returned home. They both came in on the train under disguises. Naruto had told Mizore that they would be getting home in a few days. Naruto's and Mizore's parents, however, knew about when they would be arriving, but not exactly so they wouldn't spoil things. Naruto wanted to surprise his girlfriend. Jiraiya, merely viewed this as a form of research and played along. He had gotten so much material from his pupil and planned to get more. Unlocking the door, Naruto slipped into his house. His parents were likely in the hotel. He and Jiraiya had taken a very early train, thereby allowing his plan to have the chance of working. Jiraiya went and informed Minato and Kushina that they had arrived while Naruto washed up and changed. Kushina ran into the house and was shocked at the changes her son had undergone. While she had missed him dearly, she knew that the training trip was necessary. He now stood a little over 6 feet tall. She saw him dressed in his new clothes and noted that he shared his father's physique. She would have to make sure that Mizore saw him without a shirt on, just for the teasing opportunities. She came up and gave her son a hug. "Welcome back, Naruto, I missed you." Naruto picked his mother up in the hug and spun her around. "It's good to be back, Mom. I have a surprise planned for Mizore. Do you know where she is?" Kushina shook her head. "No, but I can find out, give me just a minute." She picked up the phone, dialed, and after a moment she spoke. "Surara, is Mizore at home or at the resort today?" "The resort, excellent. The surprise we talked about arrived today. I need you to get up there and have Mizore greeting guests today. Don't let her get suspicious though, your reason needs to be believable." "How long will that take?" "Perfect, that gives us enough time to get everything put together. Make sure to keep in mind that once the shuttle gets there that Mizore will need a replacement." "Thanks, I'll be bringing my camera. I'll see if any of the guests would be willing to take pictures. If so, make sure there is a laptop available. See you soon." Hanging up the phone she turned to her son. "So what do you have planned?" "All I know is you wanted to surprise her." "Well, I wanted to borrow the hotel chef for a few minutes." Naruto chuckled nervously. "Done, what else?" "I was thinking about a picnic. Just the two of us and we could have the Shirayukis over for dinner, unless they wanted us to go over there." "A picnic, this early?" "Well, I will discuss that with Surara while you two are out and about." "Anything else?" "The picnic is because she always runs late, still does according to her letters and never eats before she heads to the resort. And other than today, I do have something special that I wanted to do for her tomorrow. But that will be early. It involves a few things that I learned while I was away." "Don't worry, it's not perverted in any way." Kushina considered this. "Okay, but the rest of the day tomorrow your father and I will want to spend with you." "That is fine with me, Mom." Kushina smirked. "That is, if Mizore will let us. She has missed you so much." Her mother is very proud of her oldest daughter. She said that she is now having to put forth more than a bit of effort to beat her daughter during training spars. Another one of her sisters has started as well. Naruto laughed again. "Should we get going? The shuttle will be leaving soon. I still need to talk to the chef." The pair walked back to the hotel and made their way into the hotel lobby. There were already people sitting on the couches and chairs waiting for the shuttle to depart. While Naruto went and spoke to the chef, Kushina was plotting herself. "Everyone listen up," she spoke loudly, "I need your attention." Since she was listed as the driver of the shuttle today, everyone complied. "There is going to be an extra guest with us today. My son has just returned home today from traveling abroad for a while. His girlfriend works at the ski resort. We wanted to surprise her and hopefully it will work. Now, there is only one of me and a large group here today, so we are going to have a contest when we get there. Everyone with a digital camera raise your hand." Well over 3/4 of the group responded, and Kushina rubbed her hand together in glee. "Excellent. Now, this is the contest. Whoever gets the best picture of her reaction will end up getting 3 free lift tickets. Second place is 3 meals of free room service. And everyone who takes pictures, we will remove $5 to $15 off a night from your room rental if you get some good ones." The assembled patrons all murmured their excitement. Kushina continued, "My husband and I will decide and let you know what your efforts have won you. I will have a computer waiting at the lodge to download them onto before you get up the slopes. Now, my son will be coming out of the kitchen momentarily. I want him to get off the bus near the end, so everyone who has a camera, get off before him, but don't make it look obvious. People with cameras will be getting on last so you can get off first. If any of you spoil the surprise I will triple your room rate. Those who don't have cameras, I ask that you wait on the bus until the surprise and her reaction have happened." The group complied, those without cameras standing by the door, and those with hanging back. There were a few people who ran back up to their room to get a camera left there. The rewards were definitely worth it. Naruto came back about 15 minutes later, with a few covered dishes that had been put in a carrying pack and a couple hotel blankets. Kushina took these from her son. You can't be carrying all of this when she sees you. Even with heavy anticipation on the part of Naruto and his mother and also the prospect of freebies from the hotel for the patrons, the ride up to the lodge was oddly quiet. Mizore had just arrived at the main lodge when her mother pulled up on a snowmobile. A few of the girls just called out sick today, and we have a large group coming from the Namakazes today. Can you act as a greeter and traffic director for me until we get them settled? Mizore groaned. Mom, I was just supposed to prepare the slopes today, then go and find the best spots for when Naruto comes home. I want to see if I can follow him home without me noticing. Mizore, please, I need this. I already sent your sister to go work that run. She is strong enough to do so. You can have the day off tomorrow if you do this for me. That way you can make up for lost time. Mizore agreed, but inwardly was irritated. She hated greeting people. By nature all Yuki Onna were shy and preferred to be observing instead of noticed. Being readily visible and outgoing went heavily against that. Mizore begrudgingly went and got change. Greeters had to appear normal for a human. So she put on some jeans and a long-sleeved shirt with a greeter badge pinned on it. Mizore decided to watch the road. As the shuttle turned into the parking lot, she saw a red head at the wheel. Kushina usually had news if a letter had come from Naruto. Maybe today wouldn't be so bad after all. She might even know what train he would be coming in on at the end of the week. Walking towards the shuttle, Kushina was directing people over to her for an introduction to the lodge. When over half of the people had gotten off the bus, Kushina came over to Mizore. You on greeter duty then? I'm sorry that you got stuck with it. It's okay. Did Naruto send a letter? No, he hasn't, I'm sorry. Something did come from him today, but I haven't had a chance to look into it and see what he sent for you. That is okay. I will stop by later today then to see if he sent me anything. Grabbing her attention, a voice was heard that was familiar, but different, and a surge of energy she hadn't felt in a long time, registered on her senses. What if I just sent myself? Mizore slowly turned, murmuring to herself, don't be a dream. When she had turned around, she saw Naruto coming off the small bus and stand there with a grin on his face. Hello Mizore. His voice, though deeper, was still recognizable. Any further conversation was cut off as she ran and jumped towards him, wrapping her arms around his neck and legs around his waist. He was now taller than her by a few inches, but she made the jump. She then kissed him in front of everyone. Neither of the rather occupied couple noticed the sounds and flashes of pictures being taken. Surara walked up alongside her friend. Kushina, yes? I want copies of those pictures. I know. I promised the person who took the best 1-3 lift tickets. I was going to offer 5. If there is a tie, I'll give both groups 3 tickets for the duration of their stay. Surara paused, then continued in low voice. The opportunity for the teasing material or is just too good to pass up. Kushina replied in a conspiratory tone, I know, and the best part is that we didn't have to do anything to get it either. 2 other girls came up and ushered everyone into the main lodge, allowing the couple some time alone. The gear would be brought up to them shortly. It was several minutes before Mizore would climb down off of Naruto. She still pressed herself into him. It looked like she was trying to merge with his coat. Tears of happiness leaked from her eyes. Surara spoke to her daughter. You can have today and tomorrow off to spend with Naruto. Thank you, mother. Have fun. What? Eat. While the two were talking, Kushina had given Naruto the blankets and the pack with the food in it. He slipped it on, threw the blankets over a shoulder, picked Mizore up bridal style and ran off to the woods. This caused the girl in his arms to blush. Usually it was the Yuki Onna who did the carrying off. It felt rather nice to be the one who was taken for once. Upon entering the woods, he poured on the speed, taking them to a clearing that they played in frequently when they were younger. It was down the mountain from the resort, so it was unlikely that they would be bothered or even seen. Naruto laid the blankets down on the snow at the base of a tree. Now, unless you have changed your habits, which I doubt, you never eat breakfast before helping at the resort. So I made sure that I brought you something. I haven't eaten either. Mizore smiled and her blush returned. Even though he hadn't been around for all this time, he still knew her better than anyone else. Thank you, Naruto. Inside the pack were a few different foods, some of which Mizore chilled before eating them. Mizore sat leaning against Naruto as she ate. She reveled in the comfort that had been lacking from just being near him. She resolved then and there to never let another touch her. I missed you, Mizore. Naruto spoke, startling her out of her thoughts. I missed you too. Naruto, could you hug me again like you did before you left? With all of my tails? Or just the ones you saw when I left? You grew more? The shock in her voice was evident. Until the age of around 30 to 40 all Yoko can gain more tails. Depending upon their strength, of course. One of the reasons why I am taller is because of the ones that I grew. Can I see them all? Only for you, Mizore. I normally only bring out a few. Naruto stood, then shifted into his kitsune form. All of his tails flowed behind him. After counting them, there are now 7 of each type. Mizore's eyes glittered and Naruto swore he saw hearts appear around her face. Mizore leapt into his embrace. His tails automatically wrapped around her. Letting out a little sigh, she felt that all was finally right in the world. Naruto sat back against the base of the tree. Mizore leaned back against his chest, the tails still covering her like a furry blanket. Every once in a while she would gently stroke one near her hand. They lost track of time of how long they stayed like this, just watching the clouds and talking to each other. Once the sun had made its way overhead, they decided that it was time to go back. While Naruto was packing up and shaking the snow from the blankets, Mizore decided to try something her mother had talked about during what she called lollipop training. Since Naruto had his back to her, she posed, leaning forward slightly and a lock or two of hair fell forward over her face. When he slipped the pack back onto his shoulders she asked, just as he turned around, Naruto. She held the sucker was being held in one hand, just in front of her lips. She then took a brief lick of it then asked pouting slightly, would you carry me back? Please? Naruto turned beet red and stammered out, yeah Mizore, sure. This, according to her mother, was a positive reaction. She decided to try another move that her mother had suggested. Leaning in close, she whispered as huskily as she could, thank you. She noticed that he had shivered, just so slightly before picking her up again. Inwardly she squealed, success. Mizore thought that she might have another talk with her mother tonight to get a few more tips. Just because he had made that promise to her didn't mean their relationship would be boring. As they made their way through the woods Mizore just leaned into his shoulder. By the way Mizore, your hair looks really nice. You like it? I was going to cut it before you arrived. I think that you look great with long hair. It was decided. Mizore would not be cutting her hair. Once back at the lodge the pair was lightly teased by their respective mothers. Mizore, however, asked a few questions to her mother in a whisper so low even with Yoko hearing couldn't be made out. She was quickly dragged away by her mother for a little further instruction. It was decided that dinner would be held at the Shirayuki residence. While preparing for dinner, Kushina accidentally spilled something on Naruto. Tsurara quickly had Mizore go get a spare shirt from her father's dresser. When she came back she stopped, stared, blushed, looked down. However, her eyes kept going back to Naruto from time to time. Naruto's shirt had been removed by his mother. Kushina took the shirt from Mizore's limp grasp. Naruto noticed her reaction and quickly slipped into the offered shirt. Tsurara? Yes, Naruto? Can we talk for a few minutes? Wiping her hands on a towel, she responded, sure. Once in the other room, Naruto kept his voice low, correctly guessing that Mizore would be attempting to listen in. The conversation was too low for her to hear and Mizore cursed the fact that she couldn't get to her room and grab the directional microphone that she had purchased. She further cursed the situation when Kushina pulled her back into the kitchen. Naruto, what did you want to talk to me about? I wanted to surprise Mizore with some abilities that I developed while training. Can you make sure she has a nice robe by her bed in the morning? Tsurara simply agreed, but guessed that it would not be her own bed that Mizore would be sleeping in most of the night. After a nice meal, Naruto took a scroll from his pocket and started unsealing gifts for both of the families. For his parents, he made a present of the entire sealed works of the Yoko libraries. In it were techniques that they had not been able to copy from their family libraries. Minato and Kushina both wondered at how he had done it, to which Jiraiya merely said, "It was a surprise to me too when he did it." I agreed that it would make a nice coming home present. For Mizore, he had gotten a collection of suckers from all over. To her mother, a smaller collection of the same. However, hidden under them was the next book from the Toad Sage. It hadn't been published yet. There was a note on it that read, "Don't ask how I got it, you don't want to know, count this as a gift for your husband as well." Surara blushed. Apparently her daughter had told him about parts of their conversations. For Mizor's siblings, a collection of trinkets and souvenirs from various places, and Naruto, taking her brother aside, gave him a book entitled, Sensing Your Stalker. At the boy's questioning look, Naruto replied, "You'll need it, trust me." A sudden feeling of dread came over a small group of younger Yuki Onna. They looked around wondering why it felt like their ways of observation would soon no longer be effective. One or two who had supplemented Mizor's allowance were glad that she had given them tips. The families parted ways, but not before Surara gave Kushina a sack filled with leftovers. Both mothers had a sneaking suspicion that tonight would be a repeat of the night that Naruto left. Granted, both of the fathers knew nothing about the happenings that night all those years ago. In the bottom of the bag was a robe for what Naruto had planned. The family all went to bed. After a few hours, Surara went to verify her suspicions. Sure enough, there was an ice clone in her daughter's bed. And just outside of her window fresh snow had been laid down to cover tracks. Surara was proud of her daughter. She was showing the dedication of a true Yuki Onna, to watch her chosen even while he slept. She went back into her bedroom to ensure that her husband didn't discover what was going on. Kushina eased the door open to her son's room. Sure enough, Mizor was cuddled next to Naruto. She sighed, leaving the white robe on the chair next to his desk. She crept out of the room only to return moments later with a camera. She snapped some quick pictures of the pair, then left again to ensure that Minato wouldn't go into Naruto's room. She missed, however, the signs of white hair at the bottom of a windowsill. As she left, Jiraiya's head popped up looking into the room. The kid and his girl are research gold. Naruto woke up slightly later than he had during his training, but still earlier than he had in the past. He quickly discovered that his nose was buried in a nest of purple hair. "I should be surprised, but I'm not," was his thought. Quickly freeing his hands, he made a few seals, then touched his palm to the sleeping girl's forehead. "There, that should keep her asleep for a while." After extricating himself from the situation, he quickly changed, then put her arms through the sleeves of her robe. He picked her up in a bridal carry. Shrouding himself under an illusion of just himself, he left the house and made his way across the town and towards the mountain. He stopped in the clearing where they had eaten breakfast the previous day. Naruto slipped behind Mizor, laying in the snow and holding her in a position almost identical to what they had shared earlier. He then removed the jutsu that was keeping her asleep. Mizor slowly came into wakefulness. Naruto's warmth behind her was comforting. Good he hadn't woken up yet. She could hear the birds. It must still be early because she didn't hear the normal sounds of people passing by his house. Her eyes fluttered open, then closed quickly. The sunlight coming through the branches was too bright, waking her up fully. "Wait, branches?" She tried to stand but was held in place by a pair of strong arms. "So my little snow maiden is finally awake." Naruto felt her relax as she recognized his voice. "And no, this isn't a dream. Imagine my surprise when I woke up to find my girlfriend in my bed." The feel of him speaking while holding her tight against him was sending pleasant shivers through her. "So where have you taken me?" Mizor asked nervously. So many of her dreams had featured something like this. "We ate breakfast here yesterday. I'm surprised you don't remember it. It looks different having my head just above the ground." Naruto chuckled, then led her up. Both knelt in the snow facing each other. Naruto took her hand in his and said, "I came out here to show you something. Before I tell you, I need you to promise that you not tell anyone, not even your mother." Mizor looked confused. Instead of letting her ask the question that was on her mind, Naruto replied, "I was able to do something that no other Yoko has been able to do. My parents will be finding out from Jiraiya, but they will know the importance of it, and they won't say a word, but until I am older and stronger, no one is to know of this. I am only telling you because I only tried to do this for you. You are the reason why I gave this a shot." Mizor already knew that he wasn't like other Yoko. Her mother knew he could use other Yoko abilities, but something completely new. While asking her to keep it from her mother, if it would keep Naruto safe, she would do it. She whispered, "You have my word." "Good, because I am sure you would be disappointed if you hadn't said yes." With this he shed his jacket, then walked out to the middle of their clearing. "I have to let some tails out to do this. I haven't mastered it yet to the point of being able to do it without them like many normal Yoko techniques. It is rather hard, but I have managed to get it down to just one tail of each type." Now Mizor was very curious. She watched as a yellow and white tail appeared then seemed to flow together, forming a light blue color where they touched. Naruto's face was a mask of concentration. Then he clapped his hands together, and the snow around him rose into the air and started swirling. It wasn't until it was swirling hard that Mizore noted that there was more snow in the air than had been on the ground. She watched, shocked, as the floor of their clearing was carpeted with a thin coating of ice. Then small mounds of ice grew then burst apart showing ice replicas of a flower she knew all too well. Naruto's tails separated again then faded away. He slouched then stood again. That was the first time I have ever done so many. That was harder than I thought it would be. Almost 3 years ago, I promised that I would take you to the field of Snow Whites when we are 17. That is still a few years away. I just wanted you to know that I haven't forgotten that promise. Mizore was shocked that Naruto had done something that previously was just the domain of the Yuki Onna. She was speechless, but her hand rose to the closest flower and gently stroked it. Naruto had jumped next to her to avoid breaking any of them. He picked it, then blue flared around his hand and the flower glowed then seemed to be lit gently from within. He then handed it to her. As long as you don't get this too warm, it won't melt. Once it starts to dim, let me know and I will recharge it. Now you can keep it to remind yourself of our promise. How? A combination of Yukai energies and shinobi practices. It is amazing what the two can do together. Some of the stealth techniques Mom has taught you are from them. It is the same as your throwing knives. Mizore, still in shock, was unable to muster a response. Mizore, if I can get to where I don't need my tails out, can you teach me some of the things you know about making and manipulating ice? Her response was simply nodding dumbly. Excellent. I can do a few other combinations, but that is the one I can do the most with. I am working now to combine 3 natures. If it works, it will be extremely powerful. The events of the past few minutes had finally percolated through Mizore's brain. Her abilities, which meant so much to her, Naruto had worked to be able to at least imitate them. Just for her. He already meant so much to her and to work to be able to be equal to her. It filled her with a feeling that she couldn't immediately identify. Once she identified it, she felt a surge in her self-esteem. Naruto thought she was worth enough to put untold amounts of work into attempting to imitate her abilities. Most husbands of a Yuki Onna had some degree of fear of their wives' powers. Now Naruto never would. He could hold his own against her. For the first time she had heard of a Yuki Onna's husband wouldn't fear her or her children on some level. Her brother would likely be the only other exception to this rule. And Naruto had chosen her. Out of everyone else, he had chosen her. A feeling of warmth made its way through her body. Mizore involuntarily transformed and hugged Naruto, her enhanced strength meaning nothing and her ice talons didn't pierce his skin. She could be herself around him. Then the strangest thing happened as she transformed back. Instead of fading from ice back to her hair, it seemed for the briefest instant that instead of ice, her purple hair was a curtain of purple snow to her mid-back. Gently swaying in a wind, then her hair reappeared. While she didn't notice this, Naruto did. He would have to ask Surara when they got back to her house. Come on, let's go. Your mom knew I was surprising you with something today. She is making both of us breakfast. Hand in hand, they made their way back to the Shirayuki household. Mizore was still clutching the ice Snow White to her chest. Now are you sure you have everything, Naruto? Yes, Mom. We have been over this 4 separate times. I have all of my uniforms packed. I have my supplies sealed in scrolls and the pair of hook swords that you gave me have been put in seals on my gloves. Yes, I have backup suppression seals in case one fails. Yes, I have my seal-making supplies. No, I promise not to alter my uniform, even if it is atrocious. And finally, yes, I have the time when the bus will be by to pick both Mizore and I up. It is now the night before the bus came to take Naruto to Yukai Academy. The past few weeks had been rather interesting. Kushina, after analyzing Naruto's new fighting style, started training him in hook swords. She had hoped he would lend himself to the katana, as she had, but in hand-to-hand, Naruto needed something else, something that could be versatile and relatively unpredictable. He was exceptionally adept at linking them and surprising her. The fact that only parts of the weapons were sharpened made him all the more dangerous. He lived up to the maelstrom meaning of his name. While he was still just a novice, Kushina had to take the sparring seriously. It didn't help that Naruto had found a way to channel his Yukai energy and chakra through them for some devastating attacks. Minato inscribed some seals on the back metal backings of fingerless black gloves. Naruto had taken to wearing them whenever he was awake. Kushina was worried. She knew that there was likely to be at least one other Yoko at the academy. If Naruto was sensed, there might be bloodshed since he had no protection from any of the clans. While his training had been further increased, the shadow clones were still working overtime for final preparations. Even though he didn't show it, Minato was worried as well. Should things get bad, he had given Naruto a seal that would transport him to the training area for him and anyone he was touching at the time. Both of them knew that the Yoko sent their kids to Yukai Academy to either have them killed for being weak, become stronger, or show other Yukai not to mess with them as a species. They had prepared Naruto in every method that they knew. They hoped and prayed it would be enough. Just up the mountain, a similar conversation was taking place. Yes, mother. I have a box full of lollipops. Yes, before you ask, I have everything else too. Mizor's tone was rather exasperated. What about your Naruto diary? Of course I have it. I wouldn't forget that. Mizor stopped. She just realized what she had said. Surara merely smirked. Good. By the way, I got you a going-away present. As she said this, she pulled a wrapped box from behind her back. Mizor gasped and slowly opened the present. Inside the box was the pair of night vision goggles that she had been saving up for. Beneath those were several pairs of striped stockings. I know that you have been wanting those for a while. Those stockings will help to cover up your legs, and they hold cold in rather well. I know that you don't like those skirts. I always thought that the uniforms were designed by Yukai with tastes like Jiraiya. I lengthened them for you as well. At least enough that the perverts around you won't see your underwear at every opportunity. Since you are a Yuki Onna, you can wear whatever you need to keep you cold. She paused, although, that does mean Naruto can't stare at your legs or your underwear. But since you are going to be wearing that sweatshirt, he needs to be able to stare at something. Mizor blushed, wrung her hands, then sputtered. Her mother continued heedless of her daughter's embarrassment. You're right, that would have other Yukai looking at you inappropriately. I didn't think about that. Well, good night, Mizor. If you plan to sleep over at Naruto's again, please be back before breakfast. Your father plans to wake you up tomorrow. So I would ask that you spend the night here. He doesn't know about your visits over there. If I might offer some advice, pay attention in your cooking classes. You and I both know you need it. You can make traditional Yuki Onna dishes, but Naruto having traveled will have a more varied taste than just our dishes. Besides, you need to get the noodle recipe he likes so much for ramen from his mother. Mizor made a mental note that she hadn't even noticed what Naruto ate since coming back. She would have to take careful notes at school. I will stay here tonight. After all, I will get in trouble if I get caught in Naruto's dorm. We can get in rather big trouble. Surara nodded, ignoring the fact that she knew Kushina had spent most of her senior year sharing a dorm room with Minato. If a boy was in a girl's dorm, it was a problem, less of one if the girl was in the boy's room. In fact, it was often overlooked if that was the case. Because she would turn 17 while in school, Mizor would need to share a room with Naruto if he held true to his promise. Wishing her daughter a good night, Surara left the room. She was worried for her daughter. What Naruto had witnessed with her daughter's transformation was odd. She had spent the past few weeks looking in history and had found only cryptic references to the snow-haired snow maidens. It seemed like they were mentioned once or twice, but there was never another whisper of one. There wasn't a real change in her daughter's abilities either. It was a rather large puzzle. There was more mention of snow boys than there were of a Yuki Onna with snow-like hair. If the snow priestess knew something she wasn't telling. She had sent a request for information to their leader, but no response had ever been given. Surara also wondered why she had never witnessed this before with her daughter, unless it was somehow connected to Naruto. Those were thoughts for another time. Luckily, her daughter had a friend going with her. She shuddered to think who would take advantage of her had Naruto not been in her life. Yukai Academy was a dangerous place, even for Yukai. Naruto would protect her daughter and she would protect him. She pushed her fears aside and went to bed. Mizor was saying goodbye to her family. Naruto had already done so. Surara gave Naruto a hug and whispered in his ear, "Protect her. Watch your own back. Yukai can be dangerous. I know you are strong, stronger than even both of your parents, but please, be careful. Make sure she stays safe." Naruto whispered back, "Don't worry, I will." A bus pulled alongside the two families and a man with glowing eyes smoking a cigar was revealed when the door opened. Yukai Academy. So you are Naruto and Mizore? They nodded in response. Well then, let's get going. After the bus had pulled away, Mizore sat leaning against Naruto and promptly fell asleep. She hadn't slept well last night. The drive took them back down the mountain, then through a tunnel. When they emerged, they were in a city. It looked like nothing that Naruto had heard Yukai to look like. We have one last student to pick up. The bus driver elaborated. He pulled up next to a nice little house. A nondescript young man with dark hair climbed onto the bus. Naruto waved him over. He sat in the seat just in front of him. Naruto smelled something that took him a moment to identify. The boy in front of him smelled human. You looking forward to Yukai? He responded, it was the only place that accepted me. My name is Sukune Iono. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. He extended his hand, Naruto Namikaze. Both my parents went there. The lovely lady drooling on my shoulder is my girlfriend Mizore. Her mother went there as well. Did your parents go there as well? No. So tell me, what do you know about the school? Before I do, let me ask you a question. Are you a human? Sukune looked confused. Of course, what kind of question is that? Naruto rubbed the bridge of his nose. I thought so. Any idea why this is called Yukai Academy? No, I just thought it was because someone had a sense of humor. Naruto muttered to himself, then shook his head. Sukune, I'm going to be 100% serious with you. Yukai Academy, he paused then let his ears pop out, is a school for Yukai. Many humans would call us creatures of myth, monsters or demons. I am warning you because I don't have anything against humans, but some people there do. Seeing the look on his face, Naruto continued, they are real, go ahead and see for yourself. At this he tilted his head toward the boy. Sukune's attitude had gone from indifference to ridicule then to disbelief. You have to be joking. Sukune, swimming in Egypt's main river is bad for you. Well anyway, I'm not. Like I said, I have nothing against humans. Heck, during my travels I learned a lot from them. If nowhere else accepted you, if you stay for the first term, then transfer out, then you will have a better chance at getting into another school. At school it is against the rules to show your Yukai form anyway. The point of the school is to teach Yukai how to be inconspicuous in the human world. There is a possibility, however, that you are part Yukai yourself. If not, since everyone has to stay in human form, then if you are careful, no one will notice. Unless you get too close, that is. You smell like a human. But nowhere else accepted me. I don't have anywhere else to go. But, Sukune trailed off as they entered a tunnel. He was too distracted by the change in surroundings. Never mind. It's too late now. What do you mean? We just arrived. I don't believe you. That is not a funny joke, Namikaze. With this, Sukune stood then marched off. Naruto mused, I'll give him 10 minutes tops once he's in the classroom. Gently shaking his girlfriend's shoulder, Naruto woke her up. Mizore, we're here. Are you ready for this? No. She then held up the stick of her sucker. In her sleep it had been dissolved. She then glared at the disobedience of the confection. How dare it dissolve before she had a chance to truly enjoy the flavor. Unwrapping another, she popped it into her mouth. Naruto, we should get going. The pair stepped off the bus and away from the truly creepy gaze of the glowing eyes of the bus driver. They held hands as they walked through the woods. It was a distinct change from the fresh air of the mountains. The air was stale and felt slightly oppressive. There wasn't even a breeze moving through the trees. The crows in the branches gave the woods the air of an Alfred Hitchcock film. Their red eyes followed the movements of the pair. Fed up with it, Naruto flared both his chakra and Yukai. The crows took off and the oppressing feeling lifted. Naruto grumbled something about cheap theatrics. As they were headed around a turn, they heard a scream. Both Naruto and Mizore broke into a run. Just about 100 yards off, they saw Sukune grabbing his neck and running in circles. Naruto recognized the pink-haired figure sitting on the ground next to a bicycle. Coming up on the pair, Mocha. Naruto began sternly. Did you already forget what I said about asking first? The pink-haired vampire rose to her feet. Naruto, you actually are here. With this she leapt towards the blonde boy. Dodging the glomp attack by the enthusiastic vampire, he continued, sighing, you did, didn't you? Mocha looked mollified. Dodging the question, she said, I'm sorry I couldn't write. Kokoa, my sister, had ripped up the paper when it fell out of my pocket later that day. I'm glad I found you here. Naruto, seeing the girl was actually apologetic over not having written him, he rested one hand on her shoulder. That's okay. Let me introduce you to my girlfriend Mizore. Because he had turned away from Mocha, Naruto missed the pout from the pinkhead and then the merest flash of a slightly vicious smirk. She wasn't going to let such a tasty blood supply out of her clutches. The mere memory of the event left her taste buds tingling. Naruto, I am still a bit hungry, may I? Much better, Mocha. Apologize to Sukune and I will consider it. Mocha, turning to the nervous boy, bowed her head and said, I am sorry, Sukune. I shouldn't have just bitten you, even if your blood is tasty. Naruto turned to Mizore. Are you okay if she drinks a little bit? You know I heal really fast. I don't think Sukune could sustain her. Mizore fixed a calculating gaze on the girl. Mocha suddenly felt extremely cold, like ice had crystallized in her veins, but stuttered out, I'm just hungry and anemic. Mizore turned back to her boyfriend and pulled him down in a rather deep kiss which left three of the small group blushing. Understand, vampire, that he is mine. You may be strong, but that doesn't matter to me. You may feed only if he allows you to do so. Mizore then threw an ice kunai, cutting off a stray lock of pink hair. I will stop you if you try to do so without his permission. After a repeat of her osculatory performance, she motioned for the girl to go ahead. Mizore sidled up to Sukune. You are rather skittish, aren't you? Sukune jumped, clearly nervous about the ice-wielding girl. He huffed, then walked away. Seeing the pink-haired girl stop her feeding, Mizore noticed a dazed look on Mocha's face. Mizore filed this little tidbit of information away for future reference. Naruto picked his backpack up, then refastened his shirt and tie. Let's get going. If we don't hurry we will be late to class. The three students then started to jog towards the building in the distance. When they came up to it, Sukune had stopped and was staring. This is a school? He blurted out. One of the best and most dangerous, keep on your toes. Naruto replied. The four stayed together as the first day progressed, although Sukune was starting to become more than slightly detached. After the welcoming ceremony, they fortuitously met up during lunch. After comparing schedules, they discovered that all four had the same homeroom class. Naruto noticed Sukune had taken a seat by the wall. Mizore sat in front of Sukune and Mocha behind him. Naruto then wove a subtle illusion, changing the perceived scent around Sukune's desk. It wouldn't be able to move with him, but it might help during class. He might be able to make something more permanent, but that would be a project for another time. If the human decided to stay, that is. Naruto's musings were cut short as a pair of arms went around his neck from behind and he felt a pair of much softer pieces of anatomy pressed into the back and sides of his head. Mizore looked ready to turn someone into a life-size ice sculpture. Yahoo! We are in the same class, Naruto, was whispered huskily into his ear. Kurumu, how are you? Naruto replied calmly, blatantly ignoring all of the males in class had only one thing on their minds. Jealousy directed towards the blonde boy. How come you and Jiraiya didn't come back for a visit? The blue-haired succubus asked. This time her breathy voice was directed towards his opposite ear. Training. Why else? And here I thought you liked visiting my house, Naruto. The succubus simpered as she sat herself in Naruto's lap. Kurumu, could you stop before my girlfriend turns you into a blue-topped snow cone? Then seeing the glare from the purple-haired figure and the frost creep across the window, she pulled back from Naruto and stood up. After laughing, Naruto, you are more than enough for the both of us anyway. Kurumu stopped from continuing as she saw Mizore's necklace flash in the light. She then walked over to her, leaned down and whispered, so you're the very special friend he bought that for, huh? May the best girl win. Fighting back her anger, Mizore replied with finality, don't worry, I will. Kurumu laughed, I think we'll get along fine. Then returning to her seat behind the blonde, she asked a simple question. Naruto, I haven't gotten a letter from you in weeks, I thought you had forgotten me. Kurumu, I told you that once I was home, I would be spending some time with my family, besides we both knew I would see you here. Kurumu's reply was cut off by the entrance of a woman with hair styled like a pair of ears was coming off of her head. Hello everyone, my name is Miss Nekonome. I am your homeroom teacher. The class was now quiet. Welcome to Yukai Academy. Now as you all know, this is a school for all types of Yukai. The purpose of the school is to aid yokai in understanding, coexisting with, and learning to blend in while in the human world. Naruto noted out of the corner of his eye that Sukune had broken out in a sweat. Obviously it was sinking in that it wasn't just a prank that a few people were playing on him. The teacher continued, as such, one must remain in their human forms at all times. It is forbidden to ask someone's true nature. As practice for when you venture into the human world, you must keep your true form hidden from others. If any of you knew each other before school, then obviously you already know, but otherwise, you must work to keep it a secret. A gruff voice interrupted the teacher. I don't understand why we just can't eat them. They are only puny humans after all. Of course we'd have to wait until after having our way with any of the good-looking ones. The student who had said this was sitting next to Naruto. Miss Nekonome looked extremely uncomfortable with this question. Naruto decided to step in. It wasn't like he couldn't handle himself, after all. Besides, he stood as tall as this guy did anyway. You're a real idiot, you know that? Do you really not understand what she just said? The humans control the world. I have seen some of what they are capable of. If you did that, they could send legions of humans armed with weapons that could kill you regardless of your monster form. They could drop a bomb on you that would vaporize you and everything around you. No matter how fast a yokai can heal, vaporization is instantaneous. You would be dead either way. Like she said, peacefully coexisting with humans is really the only option for survival. As a general rule, humans fear what they do not understand. If you showed your true form around a large group of them, you would likely be hunted down, then captured or killed for study. Why do you think most yokai have areas where they can be themselves with no humans around? Besides, depending on the type of yokai you are, if you reveal your presence to the humans, it could warrant death from your leaders. Your death as well as the humans who saw you. So I will say it again, you really are an idiot, aren't you? The class looked stunned at Naruto's words. Even Miss Nekonome looked at a loss for any coherent response. The tall pierced boy, who had spoken, looked furious. Before Saizo could say anything, Naruto continued, What? I have spent most of my life near humans. I have visited such yokai enclaves that are places that are intentionally hidden from the human world. If I was facing off against only a few humans, there is no contest. But a few can quickly become many. To borrow a phrase, if it is quantity versus quality, you can't forget that quantity has a quality all of its own. Humans are a very ingenious race. No matter your abilities, give them enough time, they will find a counter to whatever you can send their way. Naruto, realizing he was now the center of attention for the class, he decided to shift it elsewhere. Miss Nekonome, I apologize for interrupting your class. That was disrespectful of me and I will accept any punishment you should deem necessary. The teacher, taking the opening, replied, Thank you, Naruto, while you have summed up what many failed to understand, you did interrupt. Please stay after class to discuss your punishment. She then addressed the class once more. Now, while here at Yokai Academy, all staff and students are yokai, there are no real, full humans here. The grounds for the school are shielded from the human world. Many consider this sacred ground and as such no human is allowed to set foot in the academy. The punishment is death. The rest of the class continued without any further interruptions. Naruto remained after all the students had left the classroom. Mizore had told him quietly that she would be waiting outside the classroom. Naruto, I actually am not going to punish you for speaking out like you did. Miss Nekonome started. Naruto nodded, knowing the punishment could have been severe. She continued, In fact, I agree with you. I have made a good study of the human world. Many yokai would consider that beneath them. If I make comment about that, those that do so simply at their own peril. Naruto replied, I wanted to actually say thank you. This is my first year teaching, and as such, I still have not formulated good responses to common thoughts and questions, like your classmate Saizu's. I may use part of your little speech later. No problem, I think you did well. Naruto hesitated, may I ask you a question? Of course, what should we do if your tail pops out like it did earlier? You had thrown a book at the student who mentioned it. I prefer reading a book, rather than introducing it to my brain via my skull. Please don't mention it. Because of my true form, which you have likely guessed, I get distracted rather easily and it comes out. It is rather embarrassing. I had a similar problem when I was younger, so I completely understand. If you want to further your studies in the human world, I can write my father. He found a way to keep my true form under wraps until I could control it better. He might be able to adapt it to help you. Naruto, that is very considerate of you. I will think about it, but I do not want to keep you from those girls who are following you around. Naruto blushed at the teacher's words. Thank you. See you later. Naruto then stepped out into the hall. Mizore and Kurumu were both waiting outside of the room. The three of them made their way down the hallway. At the base of the stairs leading to the second level, they saw Sukune lifted off the floor by Saizo. Mocha was behind the larger boy. Naruto hurried toward the pair. Saizo turned and leered at Mocha. Someone like me is far superior to. His voice cut off with a grunt of pain. Naruto had come up, twisting Saizu's right hand painfully. Now, then I'll ask you again. You really aren't that bright, are you? With this, Naruto squeezed harder, slightly dislocating the bones in the boy's wrist, causing him to drop Sukune. While he was as tall as Saizo, Naruto twisted the arm to where Saizu's head was easily below his shoulder. I will only say this once. If you are going to pick on friends of mine, you had better be able to back it up. And you just proved you can't, so back off. Naruto growled in the closest ear. Naruto then pushed the pierced boy away. Sukune, are you okay? At the other boy's nod, he continued, let's go. Trash in the hallway shouldn't make us late for lunch. The group made their way to lunch where Naruto took several steadying breaths. Mizore whispered, Naruto, that was dangerous. You promised that you wouldn't take risks. I know, but from what I gathered he only respects strength. I just showed I could take him out. Kurumu added her 2 cents, or you issued him a challenge. Without knowing his form, you can't really say that, and according to the rumors he is only here because he is being forced to attend. At this Naruto nodded. Well, as long as he isn't mid to high S class, one can take him. This caused both Mocha's and Kurumu's eyes to widen. Sukune just looked confused. Well, enough of that, I'm hungry. Sukune, what did you think of your first day at Yukai? The lone human in the group chose his words carefully. It is interesting. Since it was only the first day, the group had decided to explore the campus a bit. Kurumu left early on, saying she had a project that she wanted to get a head start on. This confused the others since it was only the first day of school. Eventually they made it to their dormitory. Mocha was gushing about how they had character and history. Naruto had to agree with Sukune. They looked like rather dubious. The pictures of the old hotel that his parents had torn down then rebuilt showed that it was better looking than the dorms. Their luggage had been put in the assigned rooms. Naruto was across the hallway from Sukune. As Sukune sat down, Naruto let himself into the human's room. Like I said, everything I said on the bus is true. Let me let you in on a little secret. If the wrong type of Yukai is present in the school, I am in as much danger as you are. So, I will see if I can cobble something together to help you hide your scent. Holding up a hand to stop the obvious question, no, I'm not going to tell you what kind I am. But I was serious. If you stay for just a little bit, then you might get a chance to transfer to another high school. Let me tell you something about myself. What I said in the classroom is true. My parents own a hotel. Mizore's mom runs a ski resort. Both of us have been around humans for a long time. Neither of us have anything against them. Yukai that think like Saizo are present here, but there are 3 general categories of Yukai. Those who hate humans, those who believe they are inferior, and those who have no ill will towards the race. Some of the 3rd class even respect them. I take it you are part of the 3rd group? Sukune asked the blonde. My parents would have adjusted my attitude if I wasn't. My mother's way of doing that involves fireballs and explosions. Sukune started to laugh, then realized his new friend was serious. At this realization, he paled. Naruto continued, heedless of Sukune's discomfort. There is a way you could stay and even hold your own against some of the lower level Yukai you know. Sukune looked shocked. What do you mean? There is a class of boundary beings called shinobi. In truth, they are merely humans that have mastered manipulating their internal energies. They are a rather mercenary bunch, oftentimes staying in their own little corner of the world, but nice in general. They don't know about Yukai Academy, but they do know about various types of Yukai. Their abilities can be replicated by normal humans with enough practice. If you were able to do so, you could stay. You did say that nowhere else had accepted you. This will also give you an option of either holding your own, or holding one off until help arrives. Sukune looked doubtful. What would I need to do? Naruto shrugged. Lots of hard work mostly. But for starters, catch. At this, Naruto tossed a red vial to Sukune. That is an elixir. That while it is an extremely weak hallucinogen, and you likely will be rather confused at things you see, it is necessary to do this at your age. Don't worry, at worst you will only see a mirage or two. You are almost too old to learn to use the shinobi abilities. It will allow you to also visualize your chakra pathways, and then allow you to access them. I haven't read of it doing anything other than that. Once done, in essence, you'll get to stay. Don't worry about the elixir. It is weaker than any medication that would temporarily make you lose touch with reality. It only works for a few minutes at most. It is really similar to thinking you saw something that really wasn't there. What if I don't want to stay? Well, since I don't want to kill you, there is another option. At this, Naruto dug in his pocket and produced a similar vial, but with a dark blue liquid in it. This will modify your memories, causing you to forget Yukai Academy and return home with the knowledge that your application was rejected but no letter had been sent out. And you could leave this whole mess behind you. It quite frankly is your choice, but this is an example of what you could do. Naruto then proceeded to walk up the wall and stand on the ceiling. Dropping to the floor, Naruto then turned, "Good night, Sukune. See you in the morning. If you decide to take the red one, I need the blue one back." Naruto crept into his bed after putting a locking seal on his door. No sense in being too trusting after all. Meanwhile, that makes a solid 300 observation spots. A good start if I do say so myself. Mom's notes from when she was here at school were certainly helpful. I need to get up to easily 700 with the size of the school, Ms. Orr mused as she put away her detailed map. Ms. Orr then made her way to outside the boys' dorms with a spotting scope. Having already obtained Naruto's room number by hacking the school computers, she looked at the dormitory map, then located where Naruto's room should be on the second floor. She then saw Naruto enter his room and shrug out of his blazer. As he pulled off his shirt, she begged that it would stay off, but he slipped into his pajama top. She then blushed heavily as Naruto looked out the window and then waved while looking right at her. She was caught. She slunk off to her room to get her climbing gear. That location was obviously no good. The next morning Naruto awoke to a flash of purple hair disappearing from his slightly open window. The blankets next to him were rather cold. "Ms. Orr found my room already? I was just guessing last night at which spot she might be watching from." "Oh well," he thought, then lightly chuckled. As he prepared for the day, he made a few shadow clones to practice a few jutsu that he had been working on. These left via the window to find a place where they could set up some privacy and barrier seals. It would not be good to be caught by any of the teachers while training. Shrugging into the green monstrosity that was his uniform, he went and knocked on Sukune's door. "You awake yet, Sukune?" At no response, Naruto used his hearing to determine that no one was in the room. He couldn't hear any breathing, so he made his way towards the dining area of campus. He saw a commotion on his way, and could see Saizo's head over the rest of the students. Pushing his way through the crowd, he saw Saizo punch the wall just above Sukune's head. Naruto ran over and grabbed Saizo's enlarged arm and twisted it into a painful hold. "Saizo, why are you already ignoring the advice I gave you? I haven't even shifted out of my human form yet, and here you are incapacitated. Face it, you can't win. So, either you stop or I stop you." At this, Naruto twisted harder. Doing so pushed the half-transformed boy away from his friend. "Now, I will only tell you one more time, if you can't back up your claims, then back off." At this, Naruto pushed Saizo away and reached over to offer Sukune a hand up. "You okay?" Sukune was definitely shaken up. "Yeah, I didn't expect it to be this dangerous." Naruto continued their conversation once they had distanced themselves from the crowd that gathered. "Well, if you associate with people who show their strength, then the weaker ones should back off, assuming you are strong as well. The stronger ones usually will ignore you and go for the main threat. So you are volunteering to take that role?" "Meh, I was kinda forced into it with my personality and the idiot's words and actions. Besides, like I said, you would have to be a mid to high S class to beat me. Those are few and far between. By the way, are you thinking of withdrawing?" Naruto asked, pointing to the letter. "I haven't decided yet, but wanted to keep my options open." Sukune replied. A pink-haired form loomed behind the pair. Before either could do anything, it pounced. "Sukune, Naruto, I have been looking everywhere for you. Hungry again, Mocha?" Naruto asked. Before she could reply, her stomach rumbled. She continued regardless, a little, since we are on blood-sucking terms, could I have a little sip? Naruto replied, thanks for asking, and go ahead. Sukune is a little shaken up from earlier. Saizo decided to be an idiot again. Sukune looked gratefully towards Naruto. He was still rather uncomfortable with the vampire. Mocha missed the last part as she lunged for the blonde's neck. After a few moments an ice kunai lodged itself in Mocha's forehead, knocking her off. A voice drifted over, along with a few snowflakes. That is enough, Mocha. I prefer my boyfriend to be able to walk away from your feedings. Naruto turned toward the voice. Mizore, there you are. Did you sleep well? Naruto asked this question with a raised eyebrow and a slight leer in his voice. It had the desired effect. Mizore blushed spectacularly. She stuttered out a, fine. Thank you. Sukune and Mocha both looked on in confusion. After deciding that they likely didn't want to know, they continued towards breakfast. Sukune was silent. The conversation between the others was small, since it was early and only Naruto seemed to be a morning person. After breakfast, there was still time before class and the quartet separated. Something on your mind, Sukune? Mocha asked. Huh? Not really. Just wondering if this was really the right school for me. I don't think I will fit in very well. It is better than any human school. Mocha replied. When I was there, I was different from everyone else and no one really would talk to me. It seemed like no one even tried to understand me. Here I have you and Naruto. Even Mizore will speak to me. Are you really thinking of withdrawing? Yes. Mocha looked shocked. Why? Is it really so bad to be around other yokai? Do you have human friends? Not really, just family. Do they not want you here? Mocha was rather confused. Actually, my parents were ecstatic that I was able to get accepted. Then why would you want to go back? You have friends here. Sukune weighed the benefits of revealing his secret, but decided against it. He thought, if she knew I was human, then she would probably drain all of my blood to kill me like Miss Nekonome said would happen. He sighed then simply said, I don't think I will really fit in here. Unbeknownst to the pair they were being followed. Here at Yukai, is the first place that I haven't felt alone. With you and Naruto? Her sentence was cut short by a new arrival. So what are the two of you doing out here all alone? Why you could get into trouble. Saizo. Mocha cried, what are you doing out here? Sukune, who had stood in front of Mocha, was backhanded away by the now transforming Saizo. Mocha, I am really going to enjoy this. You are much better looking than Herc. The blonde who had his fist embedded in the large Yukai's gut said, Saizo. You have had your last warning. You will now be punished. He then launched into spin kick, pushing the brute backwards. When he was down, he turned. Look, this is not the real me. He is on his way. The now identified clone turned back to the fight. Unnoticed by either combatant, Sukune had picked himself up and had staggered over to Mocha. While Saizo had become a punching bag, after a few moments he managed to land a hit, dispelling the clone. The heavily bruised Saizo yelled triumphantly. Now that the flea is gone, I can have some fun. At this, Sukune slipped and the cross that normally adorned the pinkette's chest came off in his hand. A few minutes earlier, Naruto and Mizore were relaxing under a tree, waiting for the warning bell to ring. Suddenly Naruto stood and jumped away. Mizore stood and followed, then felt a wave of Yukai energy nearby, and it wasn't Naruto's. She ran faster. She arrived to see a silver-haired girl kick a transformed Saizo through a tree. Naruto was in a nearby tree watching the situation. So I am assuming you are Mocha's vampire side? Asked Naruto as he jumped down from the branch. Inner Mocha smiled at the arrival of her outer side's most delicious food source. He needed to learn his place. So do you, she said as she lunged toward the neck of the blonde. She only had the memories of outer Mocha's experiences drinking his blood. She wanted to taste it for herself. Naruto sidestepped the vampire's lunge. The same rules apply, Mocha. Ask first. The silver-haired vampire laughed. I can drink from you whenever I want. You need to know your place. She yelled as she launched a kick at Naruto. Naruto ducked under the kick and swept the vampire's other leg out from under her. I don't go down easy, Mocha. Naruto held up his hand at Mizore's attempt to step in. Change back and we will talk. Inner Mocha and flipped and landed on all fours. HMPH. Not likely. In a burst of speed, Inner Mocha tackled Naruto into a tree and latched onto his neck. With her vampire nature fully released, the blood now flowing down her throat was even better than the memories. It seemed like her entire body was on fire. Her veins were singing and her mind just shut down. Inner Mocha was so caught up in drinking the blonde's blood she ignored the ice creeping over her. Naruto was able to lift the vampire's head and pull away while Inner Mocha was dazed. Naruto grabbed the cross from Sukune's hand and put it back on the chain that dangled from her neck. The gray hair color receded and pink took its place. Only Mocha's upper torso and head were free of the ice. Her head slumped down and soft breathing could be heard. Mizore was about to start berating her when Naruto stepped in and stopped her. "Mizore, she is out cold. You can have a chat with her about this when she is awake to remember it. Let's take her to the infirmary and then head to class. We don't have any classes tomorrow and we can work this all out then." "I really don't want to, but you are right. If that is her true nature, she needs to keep it under better control." "That is her true nature?" Sukune asked. The sole human on campus was now very glad about his decision to not tell the pink vampire that he was a human. Naruto created a clone that carried Mocha back to school after Mizore shattered the ice around her. Naruto would have his clone leave a little note on the nurse's desk about Saizo. In a few hours, he knew that the boy would not die anytime soon, but he didn't mind a little suffering directed at him. His injuries would keep him down for a few days, even for a yokai. The fact that the nurse might have to re-break his bones to set them was just an added bonus. Naruto felt that he had given Saizo enough warnings. Here at Yukai, one really couldn't back down once a threat was made. That should send the message to Saizo to back off. With a note from the nurse, Naruto, Mizore and Sukune all made their way to class. Sukune was thinking the whole time. He had decided that he would do as Naruto had suggested, he would be taking the red vial on the weekend. After all, Naruto and Mocha had taken Saizo down rather easily. His decision made, he stood a little taller. Naruto noticed the change in his friend. "Red or blue vial? Have you decided to stay?" Sukune nodded. "For at least one term. Then I'll see about transferring out." Naruto replied, "Good. Training starts as soon as you take that vial. Keep your grades up and we just might get you out of this alive and able to finish school somewhere else. Let me take care of that for you." Naruto snapped his fingers and the withdrawal letter ignited. Once Sukune dropped it, the flames flared and the ash blew away in the breeze. "Like I said, I'll need the blue one back," Naruto reminded the boy as they finished walking to class.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.